Traveling the Vortex.
Is there life on Mars?
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed at episode number 55. And I'm just going to step inside this police box and arrest myself. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Glenn. What's going on in the news this week, gentlemen?
Well, there's a bit of speculation and rumor circulating that Sophia Myles will be replacing Amy and Rory as the next companion.
Can I say that every time we have news, it seems like it's based on speculation? Is that because of the fact that we're in a dry spell now?
It's because we're in a dry spell and because there's no news. I mean,
we don't get Doctor Who back until the autumn of this year.
Wait, what's this? This just in. Doctor Who's still not on.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. You heard it here first, Traveling the Vortex.
So what do you guys think about the speculation of Sophia Myles? I guess what happened was the great Moffat tweeted earlier this week about, and I don't have the quote exactly in front of me, but something to the effect of Sophia Myles, we should keep an eye on her, that Moffat really likes her.
Well, it started a while back when she first got on Twitter. And he promoted everybody, hey, you should go follow Sophia Myles, she's on Twitter. And so everybody got excited and, went out and started following her, which, he tweeted me. And I said, heck yeah, I'll go follow Sophia. I'll follow her anywhere she likes. So I follow Sophia Myles now. And then there was another comment made about big things in store, can't say too much now, as typical cryptic Moffat fashion. I don't know. I'm totally 100% completely in favor of it. I think Sophia Myles is a very good actress. I think she would make a fantastic companion as a Doctor. But I feel like we need to dispel this silly rumor that seems to be going hand in hand with it, is that just because Sophia Myles is coming on board, potentially, as a companion, does not in any way, shape, or form mean that Madame de Pompadour is coming on board as the next companion.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are just kind of blurring that line and assuming that she's going to be playing the same character. Every time a person has come back to play a companion to the Doctor in the new series that happened to be on the show before in a guest spot, they've come up with a different character for them.
With the exception of Donna Noble.
Yeah.
And I suppose by extension you could say Wilf.
Well, yeah, that's true.
But still,
although they kind of retconned Wilf because Wilf was not. Was unnamed in the Voyage of the Damned. It just happened to so work that Russell T. Davies decided that he could work that character into the continuity as the same person.
And we're so glad he did.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, I don't think somebody else had commented on Twitter that they thought it would make a grievous mistake because it would completely destroy the emotional impact of Girl in the Fireplace if he swoops down and rescues her and they go off and have these adventures and then he brings her back knowing what's going to happen. And I'm thinking to myself, no self-respecting writer ever would do that.
Yeah.
Russell T. Davies might, but he would have a reason for doing it, and it would be a phenomenal ride, and then it would create a heartbreaking end that he had to put her back into that situation. I don't think Moffat would do that. I think he just would leave it alone and they'll create something new.
There's no need to even speculate that, I think, because if Stephen Moffat has designs on bringing Sophia Myles into the fold, it will be as a completely different character.
Yeah,
it'll be as a different person.
If they bring her in, I would like to see her as a historical character. Still,
I think that'd be one step too close to.
I've seen
what
her as
Sean's
a modern
saying
day
has been
actress or modern day characters, and I'm not impressed.
Yeah. I just my only frame of reference that I can think of is.
Granted, I haven't seen her in MI5, and who knows? Maybe that's what Moffat's referring to. Maybe he's finally watching the latest season of MI5 and is like, "This is so good. She's awesome."
Because he has so much time on his break.
What? like he's going to have time during the shooting and writing of.
He's busy promoting Sherlock right now.
It's airing right now,
and he's gearing up for the next whatever is for Who, which I did hear an interesting speculation that maybe there would be a Easter special this year as part of the
build up to this next year. I don't think so.
I think that would be
wildly speculative.
That's wishful thinking. And,
the fact is, what we do know now is that Doctor Who will be back in the autumn. Yeah. That's all we know. We don't know when. We don't know where, how. what time.
At least we're finally
How
this
many?
year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That week of after Christmas was just hell.
Yeah,
it was
true.
terrible.
That's true.
Doctor Who's not coming back till next year. Now it's this year.
No, it's this year.
I heard rumor that Helen McCroy might come back too.
Helen McCroy. Who's Helen McCroy?
I'm pulling that out of my butt.
You're such a name dropper. Now you
I
have to
wanted to
explain
know
who
who
Helen
Helen
McCroy was.
Rosanna from Vampires of Venice.
Why
I don't
didn't
give.
you play that out? I mean, you're pulling that out of your butt. I mean, it's not
'Cause
like
she died.
it's not like well,
The character died.
it was the character, not the actress.
Rosanna. But they could have brought the character back.
You know
but
who I'd like to see
she
back
was
as a
such a
companion?
central point of the episode of the story
Yeah.
that in my mind, any companion that has come on after being a guest star, for the most part, their role has been fairly small.
Yes,
It's not been almost temporary companion for the episode,
I would agree.
like
It's always
Sophia Myles.
I think,
Other than Donna Noble.
Freeman, but she came back as Donna Noble.
She was a crucial but background character.
Yeah, Freeman Edgerton. Yeah, she had probably the largest role of anybody that returned to the series. Well, with the exception of Eve Miles, although that's kind of stepping out because she went into Torchwood, and then when she did appear on Doctor Who, they did do a nice job of retconning that. But not even retconning it, just
Bridging the gap.
Yeah, making a nice bridging the gap.
I guess until I get word otherwise, I'm not going to put too much stock in it.
You know who I'd like to see come back? Rosalita. From the next Doctor.
She wasn't bad.
I think she'd make a fun companion.
She would make a fun companion.
And she's historical, so she fits your
Well, I went historical based off that actress.
Sophie, he's saying that Sophia Myles comes back. She has to play
because
apparently
I would like to see her.
he
I'm not
is fine with her when she plays period parts, but he doesn't like her in her modern day acting, which doesn't make any sense to me.
She's too stiff. From what I've seen of her modern day, she's too stiff. Stiff is okay when you're playing a historical piece.
I think he means more of the formal language and the
I know
Shakespearean.
I know what it means. It doesn't make it any less.
No, I agree. I think it's rather ridiculous, but
I'm just not a huge fan of her. I liked her in the Doctor Who episode, and that's about all I've liked her in.
Again, my only frame of reference is Doctor Who. I can't think of anything that I have seen her in. Apparently, she was in Underworld, and I've only seen the first one and don't remember much about it. So,
and for those stateside, I don't know if it ended up overseas, but she was also in Moonlight as the main character, one of the main characters.
Yeah, you say that with a level of disdain that because it was a failed show, she obviously sucked.
No,
that's the way it's coming across.
No, it wasn't. I wasn't impressed by her. Now, the main guy, Alex O'Loughlin, who went on to be on Hawaii Five-0, I thought was fantastic on this show. It was just CBS didn't give it a chance.
Yeah.
It started to really grow legs. It even had Shannon Shoshaman in it for a little bit. And it started to get really interesting, and then it got canceled.
I have no frame of reference except for the fact that she was Ben and Pompadour, and she was fantastic. It's one of my favorite episodes. So. I say bring her on. Bring her on board the TARDIS.
Seconded.
Sean, who's been following Gallifrey 23 news recently, is who actually is going there. It is less than a month now away. Sean,
I should start packing.
You do realize.
And buy my plane tickets.
Some,
otherwise I'll be walking to Galley.
Ooh, that's going to be a long walk.
That's going to be the name of my autobiography.
Walking to Galley. He has some news this week.
That'll be the name of that episode when we get there.
Walking to Galley.
Let me tell you all about the trip that didn't happen. Here's why. Galley's had several guest changes and updates. I'm sorry, I'm bumping the microphone here. The two that have had to bow out most recently, and I say this, things change. Obviously, anybody who consents to come to a convention does so around a work schedule, and I totally understand that. And as a fan, yes, I'm disappointed, but as a working stiff or not working stiff at the moment, I can understand that work's got to come first. First is Tony Lee. Who is a writer for was a writer for IDW most recently. He's moved on to other projects, but apparently his other projects have now required him to bow out for some work-related thing. And then
Mary Tam.
Mary Tam, thank you. Romana One. is also involved in some project that is not going to let her off of work to come and play. So they've lost those two, unfortunately. Now, they have other people lined up, including... Are you ready for this?
Ready.
Travis Ritchie, who has become very popular with Doctor Who fans right here in America, playing an intrepid time-traveling explorer on the NBC series Community. That's right. Gallifrey 2012 is welcoming a visit from Inspector Spacetime.
I'm glad you started with this one.
I'm reading this right off of their website, which I think is...
Should we pause and react to each person? Or should we wait till the end?
I don't care.
However you would like to handle it.
We've never stopped you from interrupting before.
Yeah, why start now? Interrupt us away.
Maybe I'm just being negative Nelly tonight.
Well, who's the grumpy bear this week? I'm on my Borg sphere. In fact, I'm about to go pour my second glass.
Apparently, this is what Chuck E. Cheese does to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd have been more. That's right. I'd have been more friendly to you had I just realized you came back from Chuck E. Cheese tonight.
Although that was several hours ago, and I watched Sherlock since then, which was fantastic. That's cool that they got Inspector Spacetime.
It's that red-eye flight catching up to your jet lag.
Yeah, it's cool that they got him, but at the same time, it's
a gimmick.
It's totally a gimmick. I feel the same way about him as I feel about other non-Hooniverse people being at Galley.
Well,
it just seems a little wrong.
It's another example. Virginia Hay, who was in Farscape. She's Zan. I love Virginia Hay. I'm totally excited to go see Zan and get an autograph. It feels a little weird that she's going to be there in this completely unrelated Whovian fashion because that all of a sudden makes it more of a comic book convention as opposed to a Doctor Who convention.
I mean, it's one thing having Jane Espenson there.
Well, she worked for Torchwood. That's legal. John Delancey, Miracle Day.
Yeah,
okay, I mean there are other inside guests as well, but that's there. But yeah, I agree with you. It's more
I just have more issue with the non-Who.
At least this is kind of a sort of legitimate, Who tie-in, as opposed to, not to point fingers, Jay Avacone, or Avacone, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, whose many TV appearances have included roles on Stargate SG-1, The X-Files, The Pretender, Sliders, and Beauty and the Beast, which I had to go back and look just to make sure because I saw SG-1 and my curiosity was piqued, and he played Kowalski in the movie and the first couple of episodes of the show.
Cool.
Yeah, well, I like Kowalski. As well as Vernon Wells, a veteran of films such as The Road Warrior, Commando, Inner Space, Weird Science, and a long-running appearance on the TV series Power Rangers. Note to Galley, not really sure that's going to get anybody too terribly excited there.
I don't know. I bet there's some young people there that would appeal to that are probably coming of age now that watched Power Rangers when they were younger. I mean, Power Rangers is way beyond me because it was
targeted at me, and I didn't quite get it.
It never existed in my youth. Had it existed in my youth, I probably still wouldn't have watched it because I'm not really into the Japanese style films and shows. But I mean, there are probably a lot of people there that did. I hear a lot of people talk about Power Rangers.
We had a very interesting conversation with Julian last week about the fact that Power Rangers was actually a completely separate show. That all of the martial arts fighting was this other show from Japan, and that all of the school-based stuff with them speaking English was what was filmed here in the States.
And all the robot stuff in addition.
Yeah, all the robots, all the oversized monsters and things like that. That was all the Japanese footage.
Yeah. That's all from somewhere else, which I thought was kind of interesting. Also, they're delighted to announce that Waris Hussein will be with us again. Waris, who directed the very first Doctor Who story, An Unearthly Child. So he will be back.
He was a surprise guest. He was not on the schedule. He was a surprise guest last year by the Podshock Boys. They got a hold of him and brought him in as their special guest. And when they did their taped segment live, they brought him in and talked to him. And I've listened to that. It's very interesting. It's really neat to hear from him. He was very, very young. In fact, I think he at the time was up until recently, was one of the youngest directors to work on Doctor Who as well.
Well, I think it'd be very interesting, too, since they do have William Russell, who's going to be there this year.
Yeah,
that's right. So there's got to be some great stories that they, I would hope, that we'll be able to bounce off of the two of them. As well as Nigel Ferris, writer, producer, and director of many Doctor Who and other related projects for Big Finish, so somebody else from their canon. And Caitlin Blackwood, which is attending her first North American convention, and she is young Amy Pond.
Yep.
So, young Amelia. I'm still holding out. I'm still steadfast, despite the fact that we are less than a month away, that the announcement is coming. Sylvester McCoy will be attending Galley. You heard it here.
Who knows? It may be a guest surprise.
It may be a guest surprise, but he will be there. I have no doubt in my mind. So, but in any
that
case,
would be the guest surprise of guest surprises. I mean, that would be huge to keep that under your hat.
It would be like, what? Was it last year or 2 years ago that Davison... It was last year. Davison was at Galley, and then the surprise guest was David Tennant.
Yeah, but it was on tape. I mean, it was...
Oh, I thought
David Tennant didn't show up. He was on tape.
But never mind.
He's been on tape twice because 2 galleys ago, not last year, but 2 years ago, Peter Davison was supposed to be the guest. He had to bow out because of commitments with Legally Blonde on Broadway. And so he sent a tape, and in that tape, David Tennant made a guest appearance in that. And everybody went wild and went crazy. Well, when he went last year, Davison did a special taped segment again showing his trip there, preparing to come to the United States for, and it was a parody of his first one that he did, which was a comedy as well. And David Tennant again makes a guest appearance in that, and I believe I want to say Freeman Adgerman is in that as well. So yeah, we got
that's cool. That would be cool.
Yeah, they got a 2 guest appearances, but those have all been on tape or all on film. So
I'm holding out. Sylvester McCoy.
Sorry, that was a weird laugh, but I was drinking Borg
Don't laugh at me and choke on your Borg sphere while you do it. He will be there.
I've known you long enough that you've eaten your words more often than not, so I'm hoping beyond hope that he's there since he's one of your favorite doctors. However, I don't have a lot of hope for you that he will be there. So
it's a 15th anniversary reunion of Doctor Who the movie. They couldn't pull it off without him. He will be there.
We'll see. Anyway.
One word, Glenn. Serendipity.
Yeah. Shall we move on to feedback, guys?
Feedback.
Oh, you both launched into it. I was expecting you to keep going, and one of you take the harmony, one of you take the melody.
No.
It would have been fantastic. We worked this up before the show.
Choreographed song and dance routine, but unfortunately I twisted my ankle on the Borg sphere. And
I think I'm losing my voice.
Who's first?
Luke sends us in after a bit. He says, comment question, hey guys. Hope you all had a great
feedback,
Christmas.
Luke. Sorry.
This is your film. I know it's been ages since my last piece of feedback, so I think congratulations are in order. Congrats on reaching 50 episodes. Just think of all that time I spent catching up with Mark and Alex. But I did it. And in time for the 50th. Congrats on a year of podcast. 1 whole year. That's a long time. Just think of the amount of time I have spent listening to your podcast.
We did, and we felt your pain, and that's why there was an achievement awarded to you for mainlining the show. And a very expensive achievement, too. Yes. You got a lot of points for that one.
Here's my feedback for the episodes I remember you doing for Classic Who. Revelation of the Daleks. I liked this episode. I thought the love story line was a bit pointless and never understood why the DJ was there because all the bodies were, dead. Remembrance of the Daleks. This is my favorite of McCoy's era. I thought the way we had 2 warring factions of the Daleks was genius. The way that it proved to the audience that they don't just like to exterminate people. Plus, I found myself chuckling when I saw the Dalek cannon. It's a Dalek with a cannon. That's my feedback for this week. A late Merry Christmas and a late Happy New Year. P.S. Sean, I did get another iPad for Christmas. That makes 3. Or, I'm sorry, iPod. iPod for Christmas. That makes 3. Also,
I say, man, if he's got 3 iPads, wow, that's just insane.
If you'd like to send them away, you can address them to Traveling the Vortex.
There are 2 people here that would love to have them.
iPods for Christmas. Also, I have a final question for you guys, which isn't Who related. In your opinion, what is the game of the year for 2011?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I've
had a week to think about this.
I've done some thought on it, and
Do we go with the easy answer of Arkham City, or
I think you should go first because I haven't played much this year.
Okay.
Well, excuse me, I didn't play much last year.
There are 3 games that immediately spring to mind. Infamous 2, which is fantastic, and I still haven't completed the Evil campaign. Arkham City, which is so good. There are still a few games that I haven't played from this year that that would make my top list, including Uncharted 3. This is something I haven't gotten to. But my number 1 game of the year would have to be Portal 2. It is such a... This year? That was this year. It was early on this year. Such a good game. As great as the Arkham City story is, which I just finished the story, and I'm not as excited for Dark Knight Rises because nothing can compare to this, is how awesome it is. Portal 2 still surpasses. It's so much fun to play. I could go back and replay constantly Portal 2.
It's hard for me to say what I thought Game of the Year was. I don't play near as much mini games as Keith does. The game I played the most last year was, and this came out 2 years ago, was Call of Duty Black Ops. But because it came out so late last year, that's what I played all last year. And I did a lot of the year catching up, like Borderlands, which came out a few years ago. I played that. The only new games that I can think of that I played this year that were kind of big games were Lego Star Wars 3 and Lego Pirates of the Caribbean. So both great games, but I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't consider them Game of the Year. They're fun games in the Lego realm. The better of those two, I think, was Lego the Pirates of the Caribbean. But if I wouldn't say Game of the Year, but that was my favorite game of last year, was Lego Pirates of the Caribbean.
I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I play a lot of games, but I tend to wind up playing behind the times. The most current thing I've been involved with recently has been the Jurassic Park game, which I purchased with a gift card from Christmas and have been kind of sort of working my way through. But realistically, I play everything behind the times. I play Borderlands, the Lego games. You're even further ahead of me on those because we started to get into the Lego Harry Potter and didn't get very far yet.
Yeah. I'm even on the second set of Lego Harry Potter.
I still play a lot of Halo Reach. I still play a lot of a massive amount of Rock Band 3, which again was kind of late in the year from the previous year.
2010.
I've watched Keith play Arkham City and cannot wait to delve into it because it just looks phenomenal. And the first game was Arkham Asylum was Game of the Year. Yeah. It was totally deserving of everything it won. But yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I haven't really had the opportunity to play much between the work and the school and the podcast and the film festivals and everything else that goes on. But I can tell you, of the games that have come up, Arkham City is probably the one I'm looking forward to playing the most out of everything that I've seen of late. So
I don't know if this would count. Of course, I haven't played it yet. I'm really looking forward to getting into it. In fact, I'm saving it for last because it's going to be so expansive. Is Mass Effect 2, which I don't remember when that came out for Xbox, but as far as PlayStation 3, that was last year.
Once you've played it, that'll be your new pick. I'll go on record as saying that'll be, because Mass Effect 2 is beyond a phenomenal game, the entire Mass Effect series. Now, if you want to talk about what's coming up, I'm excited about Mass Effect 3. I cannot wait for Mass Effect 3.
Borderlands 2.
Borderlands 2 looks really good. The new Halo game, I'm mildly...
Halo 4.
Halo 4, mildly excited about. Kind of more of the same for me. I like my staples.
I'm
a sequel guy.
No, I'm the same way.
I'm looking forward to Lego Batman 2.
Yeah.
No.
Sean's going into convulsions because
did you see they confirmed the additions? That it's Lex Luthor and Joker teamed up in the game, and you team up with Superman.
No.
Yeah. Oh. You get the whole Justice League available
that's what they need to call it then. They need to call it Lego Justice League and not Lego Batman 2.
They might just be Lego Batman 2 is the working title.
Lego
That's
Batman
so
2
awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's the only thing that has me excited about Batman is the fact that it is Justice League related, because I had such...
Oh my god!
Don't get me wrong. Lego
I'm
Batman
a little worried
had some fun stuff, but
they won't be able to convey some of those powers right in Lego form.
Nah, they'll be fine. They'll do just fine. They always do.
I don't know why.
The only one I've been disappointed with was Lego Star Wars 3. So
I want
I
Lego
enjoyed
Doctor
Lego
Who.
Star Wars 3.
When are we going to get Lego Doctor Who?
They have to have the Lego license in order to do it, and they don't have it.
Somebody make a phone call, for Pete's sake. I've already figured this out for you. I'll write the script. I mean...
All right, moving along. We've already checked.
Moving right along.
I'm not moving right along. Moving right along. There you go. Okay.
Whatever.
Someone come and fetch us. We're in Saskatchewan.
Sometimes as much as we segue.
The next...
I was disappointed that Am I a Man or a Muppet did not win the Globe for Best Song. I mean, it still went to a Muppets song, but it wasn't Man or Muppet.
Oh, I didn't see who's won the Best song.
There wasn't even a Muppet song in the Globes.
No, not Globes. Not Globes. Critics' Choice or whatever that other one was.
I don't know. I have no idea. I watched the Globes tonight, and there was no Muppet songs.
Really?
Yeah, not at all.
Shame on you, Golden Globes.
Maybe the Oscars will rectify that.
Oh, they better.
First bit is from
Alex.
Of course,
the Oscars are on ABC.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well, there was a big push for the Oscars to be hosted by the Muppets, which would have been awesome.
I think so, too. I saw the interview on, I think it was Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and Kermit said that as fun as that would be, it's not something that they would have been interested in. And Piggy, of course, said, well, of course not, because I'm sure to be nominated. But he just... I think the legitimate concern was
the technical aspect of it.
Well, the Golden Globes are fun. The Oscars are business. And I think the stuffy Hollywood types would probably be a little put off by awarding statues by felt.
But the felt doesn't award the statues.
I know, but I think they just would have been
just
silly. And they don't even hand off the.
I know. Just as silly as giving Dave Letterman the reins or
Eddie
Murphy.
I think it's inspired. I think Kermit and Company have hosted their own variety show. I think we're trading over this ground before, aren't we?
We
are. We talk about this.
Yeah.
I think the Oscars are too stuffy for their own good.
Well, I agree.
We've really segued here, so
anyway.
Back on track here.
It's Luke's fault. He segued us on video games, and then once you start us,
once you do that, it's kind of over with. I think people try to segue us on their emails.
What's Alex have to say?
Alex writes in with, sorry guys, I sent this to you now without bothering to proofread. And I'm not supposed to read that.
That's why I scrolled past it to begin with.
Well, that's why I scrolled back up, because I was like, why did you go down to the bottom of the email?
Now you got to let the listeners in. This was Alex's second attempt.
He proofread some stuff so it made it easier for us to read.
I think.
Thank you, Alex.
I don't laugh at Alex. He's a very conscientious writer-inner, and he fixed his mistake. So I didn't mean to call him out.
Don't laugh at Alex because Sean isn't it.
I thought about just having you read this one. And
I had it right here ready to go.
There's two D's in Idiot Savant. Hi, you guys. It's me again. Between last week's episode and this week's episode, you will have covered 3 of the 5 specials. His math is right. So I just wanted to write in to give my thoughts on the stories.
Well, unfortunately, in his last email, he had 2, so that's why he.
Oh, is that?
Forgive me for interrupting. Go on.
Give my thoughts on the stories you've reviewed / will be reviewing. The Next Doctor, which we did last week, is by no means a perfect episode. There are several plot holes. The Cybermen are underused as villains. And the whole thing is so over the top and cheesy, it could only ever be broadcast at Christmas. Despite that, it never fails to put a smile on my face. Out of all the Christmas specials, it may not be my favorite, but it's definitely the one that makes me, quote, feel the most Christmassy. I would have gone with Christmas Carol.
Yeah, that makes
Christmassy, but
okay.
I think maybe he meant up to that point.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I could see that.
David Morrissey is a fantastic Doctor, and if he had turned out to be the 11th, I would have had no problem with it. He makes a great partner to Tennant, who incidentally is especially brilliant in this story. The sonic whistling in particular is hilarious. The mystery surrounding Jackson Lake had me enthralled when I first watched this, and I was holding my breath at the fake reveal of the fob watch when Jackson was wearing it. It's light, fluffy, and uplifting, just like Christmas TV should be. Planet of the Dead, which we're reviewing tonight, was a mixed bag for me. It has some funny moments. I'll just step into that police box over there and arrest myself, says the Doctor to the incompetent detective. And it also has some awe-inspiring ones. I don't know about you guys, but the reveal of the storm actually being a swarm completely took me by surprise.
Yeah.
However, while there are some brilliant bits and bobs scattered throughout it, overall I wasn't too impressed. Lady Christina's character just wasn't believable for me. I get that she was supposed to be Ten's ideal companion to emphasize how broken over Donna he is when he turns her away, but I think they went too far with that and turned her into an exaggerated caricature of a companion. Also, while the Tritivores are supposed to be homages to bug-eyed aliens of 50s sci-fi, I think they ended up looking very silly imitations of those 1950s aliens. There's absolutely no modern spin that makes them seem any less ridiculous. The Waters of Mars is up there as one of Tennant's best episodes, in my opinion. Tennant shows us such a different side to the Doctor here, the Time Lord victorious, and that spark of what the Doctor could be is simultaneously intriguing and terrifying. He really puts everything he has into this performance, and the result is nothing short of spectacular. The episode also has a horror vibe to it. The water virus slowly turning the cast against each other, the cramped sets, gives the episode a claustrophobic feel that had me hiding behind the metaphorical sofa in fear.
Running through corridors.
The seared bulkhead door...
The siege.
Yeah. The sealed bulkhead doors added to the feeling of isolation. Although I'm sure the Merca would have made short work of them. It was brave of Davies...
That's what was missing in Waters of Mars.
Yeah, perfectly. It was brave of Davies to do something different and original in the final days of the 10th Doctor, but it's an experiment that paid off wholeheartedly. Speaking of the final days of the 10th Doctor, knock, 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 knock. P.S. Hey, I thought the Cyber Shades were cool. And as always, thank you very much, Alex, for your feedback. And I don't know that I disagree with anything that you wrote in your feedback other than the Cyber Shades being cool.
Yeah. When we get into our reviews, I think I have a good explanation of why Lady Christina's character fell so flat.
I look forward to it. Who's next on the feedback list?
Chrissy!
Hi, Chrissy.
All right. Chrissy writes, "Hey, Vortex boys. Hope everything's going well or doing well this week. Let me start over.
You should start over.
Yes,
Hi, Chrissy.
Hey, Vortex boys. Hope everyone's doing well this week. Here's what I have to say about the episodes you're discussing this week. Planet of the Dead. I admit I wasn't terribly thrilled with this one the first go-round. Other than the fact that the Doctor's companion in this story has the same first name as I do, and she spells it correctly. Yay! But after watching the rest of the specials, it's wormed its way in as one I enjoy. The reason for that is because it's the last time we get to see the 10th Doctor go out on a high note. I hope I'm not spoiling Keith on anything by saying that. I figure he's watched the Waters of Mars by now, and I'm fairly certain he knows that the story is entitled The End of Time is not going to be a jolly walk in the park.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a fun romp.
You also have to remember that the special aired at Easter, and the next special wasn't going to be broadcast until November. So I forgive them for putting on a gigantic splash fest, and just enjoy it for what it was. Though, truthfully, I would have enjoyed having a full season of Lady Christina traveling with the Doctor. The Water of Mars. Holy cow, Russell. Between Donna's departure and this story, how many times are you going to crush my soul? This is one that I put with the Caves of Adrazzani as stories that I can only watch when I'm in a certain frame of mind. That is, I want to be really, really, really depressed and cry my eyes out. I suppose it's notable that Caves and Mars were both directed by Graham Harper. I really should just avoid stuff that he directs.
I did not know that until she wrote that.
Yeah.
First, I cried because the Doctor wanted to save the people of Bowie Base 1, but he couldn't because it would mess up history. Then I cried because the Doctor was going to save Captain Adelaide and her crew, but he was doing it with the most arrogant jerk-face way as possible. This was not my Doctor. Not the wonderful 10th Doctor that I had come to love and admire. I'm trying to put an A in front of love.
That's the British stone.
At the end of this story, I was almost ready to see the bum regenerate, and I felt bad for feeling that way because 10 is my Doctor, and I didn't want to see him leave. Needless to say, I was feeling a bit conflicted at that point. I have to say this for Waters of Mars, though. We had a story about Pompeii, which is a historical event that we know happened, and with historical fiction, you can't really change the great, big, broad historical facts. But treating a fictional future event like an established historical fact is something I've never seen before in any other show, and it was done brilliantly here. It's a reminder that A, the Doctor is a time traveler, and things in our future are things in the past for him. And B, horrible things happen in our lifetimes, and horrible things will happen in the future, and those events will become part of history. But you don't look at them as coldly as you look at something like Pompeii that happened such a long time ago. It gives events like Pompeii and Bowie Base 1 the same kind of human feeling, even though they happened thousands of years apart in the Doctor Who universe. It's sort of like when you think about where you were when 9/11 happened. You remember those details so vividly because you experienced it, but future generations won't think much of it. Case in point, I don't really connect with the Kennedy assassination because I wasn't born when it happened, and it doesn't mean a whole lot to me. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm rambling. Anyway,
I think it makes sense.
I think it totally makes sense.
Yeah. For me, the connection is Challenger.
Yeah, I would. In fact, when she talked about Kennedy assassination, my thoughts went to the Challenger. I remember I can associate with the Challenger explosion, and I can associate with the 9/11 explosion, incident because I lived them both, and I can vividly remember everything, even though 9/11 was merely 10 years ago. And has it been that long? Gosh, it has.
More.
And Challenger's been almost 30 years ago.
God,
and
I feel old now.
But
Thanks, Glenn.
30 years ago, I remember vividly where I was, what happened, what I was thinking. So, yeah, she's absolutely right. So it's a lot harder to associate something that happens before your time and really have a connection to it like that. So, yeah, no, absolutely, Chrissy.
No, it's just such a unique take for something. It's set in the future, but it's still history to someone.
Right, absolutely. Anyway, don't get the idea that I don't like The Waters of Mars. It was a wonderfully crafted piece of storytelling, and they did a fantastic job with it. It's just a really, 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 really sad story, and I cry easily at things like this. As if you didn't know that already. Those are my thoughts. Eagerly awaiting yours, Chrissy.
As always, Chrissy,
thank you
for
Chrissy.
your email.
Yes, absolutely.
We will find out our thoughts shortly.
Yes.
And Holly also wrote in with her thoughts about Planet of the Dead and Waters of Mars. She says, "Hey guys, just wanted to give my thoughts on these two episodes. Planet of the Dead, liked the episode. The opening sequence with Lady Christina was cool. Plus, I love the sequence when she's on the bus and it stops, and all we see is a pair of Converse, and you know it has to be the Doctor. All the scenes with Malcolm were cool too. Waters of Mars. This is a brilliant episode. Lots of suspense and great acting. Plus, you really get the feeling that it's the start of the end for the Doctor. The scene near the end of the episode with the Doctor and Adelaide is very powerful, as well as the Doctor getting a little big for his britches. Adelaide even calls him on it, about who decides who is important and that she disagrees with him. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on these episodes, and keep up the fantastic work. Holly from Wisconsin."
Was that a Freudian slip? The fantastic worse?
It was a burp.
You think we do worse?
It was a burp.
No, I'm just kidding.
Keep up the fantastic work. Holly from Wisconsin, a.k.a. not Glenn's Holly.
Just goes to show that our worse is still fantastic.
Oh,
Put that in your iPod. As always, Holly, thank you for your email. And, again, it seems everybody's fairly even keel on their thoughts on these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we have one more thought.
There's no love and monsters here.
That's right.
That's true. There's one more person sent in their thoughts on these two episodes, and that is Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil.
He sent us in some audio feedback, so let's take a listen.
Greetings, protectors and defenders of the Vortex. Hey, Dr. Phil here with just some more thoughts on your latest Traveling the Vortex episode. There was a great moment when you guys were discussing Dreamland, where when you were, having your call out about Big Finish, you should do this, and I'm like, ready to pull out my phone and record a voice memo when Sean goes, "Oh yes, when you get the license to do news series stuff." I'm like, okay, never mind. I don't have to comment on that. But it was very funny because I'm like, on the verge of pressing stop on listening to the podcast, jump over into because I have a tendency to do that. Anyway, rambling done. This week you guys have Planet of the Dead and Waters of Mars. out of the specials, while there's some coming up that I think do not equal the sum of their parts, because there's some great stuff in the final two-parter, there's some not so great stuff in the final two-parter as well, but I would say that I really enjoyed the first half of The Next Doctor, but I would have really preferred any concept or name of a Cyber King, which was laughable. I did not mind the giant Cyberman walking over London. I just did not like the concept of it being called the Cyber King, because, not to sound all Marxist or anything, but, all Cybermen are created equal, except if they have the designation of Cyber Leader, Cyber Planner, Cyber Controller, right? But I really would have loved, it's kind of like in Star Wars Revenge of Sith, or the prequel trilogy, where, I don't like the name Count Dooku. Why not just use the bloody cool name Darth Tyrannus you used once? That's a great name. Nope, never do that. So, in The Next Doctor, why not just keep referring to it as a Dreadnought-class ship? That was pretty cool, and I would have appreciated that a lot more, because I thought it was a great idea that was just a small reference and never used again in place of a Cyber King. With Planet of the Dead, while I did like the return of the unit commander, I didn't really care for the laughable scientific advisor who was a gushing fanboy, because that kind of is my problem with the Doctor getting too big for his britches sort of thing in the new series, is that people are just gushing about him in universe. I mean, fans, we're supposed to gush about the Doctor. That's part of what we do. But I didn't really find that the Planet of the Dead was anything special to be called a special. There were, again, great moments, but the majority of it just felt half-baked. But Waters of Mars, on the other hand, I think, except for maybe one portion of the score, which was too obnoxiously loud over dialogue and such, was very well realized, with very subtle hints of things like calls back to the Ice Warriors, and exploring that fixed point of time in a similar and very mature way that they did in Fires of Pompeii. I really appreciated that. It was Graham Harper's final contribution to modern Doctor Who, and I know that he's shown interest in wanting to come back, but has not yet. But we can just say for the time being, that's his last outing, which is directed very well. There are some very connections visually in style, and he's even said it on commentaries and interviews, to the Terminator as they're fleeing from the people possessed by the flood, and the way that running like the T-1000. I did appreciate that. I thought the end was great because it propelled you into the next story very nicely, which I'll save my comments about how well that happens at the beginning of when we guys talk about the End of Time Part 1 and Part 2. Nonetheless, great performances from the whole cast, even the background characters in Waters of Mars, minus Johnny Five is alive, which he wasn't bad, but what's neat is if you watch the the confidential cut down, the Johnny Five robot, as I'll just refer to him, was a lot more similar in design to Wall-E, which came out shortly before, and so they had to change the design significantly. And I thought the design was really good, and I thought Tennant has some really stunning, great moments at the end of just near madness, not wanting to give in, and having, of course, the machine pilot the TARDIS over, which, of course, is a convention of, no-no in Doctor Who's storytelling, was a great and dramatic end. And, of course, with Adelaide's suicide at the end to preserve the timeline, that really does show how kind of incompetent Tennant was to just not get out, just to get out of there. It kind of, and of course the web of time kind of reforms around the way events ended up playing out, reminded me a lot, and Sean, you'll appreciate this a lot, of the episode of Quantum Leap where he leaps into Lee Harvey Oswald, and of course all the running amok of Oswald in the future, whatever. But I thought the interesting ending, it's like, well, is he here to save President Kennedy? No, he was there to save Kennedy's wife. And you're like going, oh, okay, our current version of history is the way that was meant to be set by that sort of thing. And it kind of had a similar flavor at the end of that story to the end of Waters of Mars. But anyway, looking forward to the discussion of the final of the specials. And I'm really dying just to say a few things about it, but I'll wait a few weeks. But keep up the great work, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Phil, as always. And yes, just a couple more weeks, and I won't be spoiled for anything.
You'll be done with the new series entirely.
Are you looking forward to it as much as we are? Are you kind of... I mean, even tonight, you took...
I'm looking forward to it.
You took the book, because you have the liner notes from the Specials DVD box set, and I looked at you.
Is that why Sean was slapping your wrist?
I had to slap his wrist because
I saw the frickin' trailer after Waters of Mars.
Doesn't matter. He saw the trailer for it, but then he goes and flips the page and begins to read the description.
I didn't read. I was looking at the picture.
And how many times have you said, "Oh my God, pictures are so spoilerish in this thing"? Why would you do that to yourself?
Because I saw that scene in. I was looking for actually air dates in the books. That's what I was looking at.
You peeked.
Soon, no more.
Yeah, he won't have a chance to peek anymore. He'll be all caught up.
Although I can seek out more spoilers online.
Only thing that he can spoil himself on is Classic Who, which...
Or New Who when it returns. Find out as many spoilers
only
as possible.
but only if you delve into that. You're not going to do that. I mean, you've kept yourself spoiler free.
Despite what Sean thinks in his head, I don't go online looking at all sorts of spoilers.
All day long. That's what he does.
Anyway, so let's launch into our reviews of Planet of the Dead and the Waters of Mars.
The Planets of the Dead. When a London bus takes a detour to an alien world, the Doctor must join forces with the extraordinary Lady Christina. But the mysterious planet holds terrifying secrets, and time is running out as the deadly swarm gets closer.
No.
Not a bigger no.
Not a bigger no.
I enjoyed this one. I thought this was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
I'll give it that. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. It doesn't deserve a bigger no.
I like the inclusion of units, and we were watching this, and Sarah said, Torchwood would have been so much better for this. And I kind of agree with her. Torchwood would have been a better solution to call in on the Earth side of things. Because what a unit do? Roll out, point their guns and their rockets at it, and just wait.
I don't know. I'm kind of used to that.
It's a very unit response.
Yeah, that's the tactic of unit. I'm used to that from the old days.
But when you
Torchwood, the problem with Torchwood would be
when
is
a flaming skeleton comes out and falls down in front of you.
The problem is Torchwood would have wanted to study it and maybe even try to attempt to go through it and use anything that came out of it. And I mean, I totally think unit was the right. In the way that they react to this, Unit is the right group to do it because they felt a threat, and they wanted to shut this thing down before it became a threat, and that was Unit's job, and that's what Unit's best for. So
until the end of it, I thought Unit was a bit unnecessary. That Torchwood would have been a better fit, but looking back on it as a whole, I think Unit would have.
Not at all.
I think
Torchwood wanted to shut it down like 10 minutes after they got there. Well, they were like, okay, we're going to shut this thing. They didn't want... In fact, they were not going to...
Torchwood totally would have sacrificed everybody on the bus.
Absolutely. Torchwood... Unit would have too, had it not been for Malcolm. Was it Malcolm? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Torchwood would have too. I mean, Unit would have too. But no, Unit is definitely what needed to be here. Torchwood... That's what I'm saying. Torchwood would have been too... mamby-pamby about it. We'd have tried to explore it. We'd have tried to gone through the thing.
The only thing that makes...
you really needed somebody that felt that understood that there was a threat to Earth and needed to be there to stop it. That's why Unit works on the other side.
It wasn't until later in the episode that Unit made sense.
That's why Unit works here in the sense of the scope of the story. Because if Torchwood would have shown up, we'd have had this whole cooperation thing. There wouldn't have been any tension. There would have been... I mean, Torchwood... Like I said, Torchwood would have sat on their hands for the longest time, and the Doctor would have been able to get back over with no tension. Unit adds tension to the story. Unit adds the suspense, and that's why Unit is a perfect fit for this story.
And that's what I'm saying. Initially, I thought, where's Torchwood? Torchwood would be a good fit. And then the end of it, I realized, oh, wait, no, this is
I think the other
story.
thing that I go into is, with the exception of bringing Captain Jack back and the necessity to have to recognize the fact that he is part of Torchwood, I never go into a Doctor Who going, well, where's Torchwood? Torchwood will work with for that. Torchwood is a whole separate entity beyond the the second season, with the exception of the fact that they do get an appearance in the fact that. But it's only when Captain Jack's brought back in, and when he's
But what about the season 4 2-parter?
That's that same thing. Captain Jack's brought in there, so it's a necessity to bring Torchwood into the fold in that sense, so that it works. I think he works for the story.
I don't think Captain Jack was a linchpin of bringing Torchwood in for that part.
Oh, absolutely.
I think brought in Sarah Jane.
No, it was absolutely necessary not to ignore where Captain Jack was and why Torchwood, under Captain Jack's capacity, would not have. I mean, they easily wrote it off in the season finale to the third season by saying that Saxon had or the Master had them tied up in another country somewhere, working on something else. I don't sit there and go, "Wow, Torchwood should come in here." To me, Torchwood doesn't exist in the Doctor Who universe anymore. I mean, it doesn't. I like them nod from Torchwood back to Doctor Who. Makes sense, but no, I never look at it and go, "Yeah, Torchwood fits better here. It works better." I don't do that. They're two separate things now for me.
Well,
Unit is part of Doctor Who.
By the end of the episode,
Unit's
I agree.
part of Doctor Who. Unit
by the end of the episode, I agree. Unit was who needed to be there. You just didn't let me finish.
I did let you finish, but
no, you didn't. You didn't listen once.
Anyway, there are two things you have to keep in mind with the Torchwood discussion. Hang on. There are two things you have to keep in mind with it. First is you're coming at it from the perspective that Torchwood has a rift at the hub.
Yeah.
And because this is a rift or a wormhole or whatever, you have the background knowledge to know, they could have dealt with this. Nobody else knows that because it's a secret organization.
Well,
so,
true.
Nobody would have thought, well, I know Torchwood's got one of these in their basement.
That Torchwood decides to write Torchwood on the side of their Hummers. That's just... Sorry.
I didn't say there weren't flaws with the show.
I still like to pick apart Torchwood. Torchwood as a show is fine, but Torchwood linked into Doctor Who just doesn't work, especially since the fact that Captain Jack is not Captain Jack when he's not into Doctor Who.
The second thing I'll give them is that Doctor Who, I think, has done a much better job of bringing Captain Jack back into the fold after his departure to another show than, I know I'm going to get flack for this from you two, say Star Trek. Anytime they needed to bring Worf back from Deep Space Nine, it was just...
or even for the movies, where'd you go?
It was just completely random that he shows up because, he's part of the Next Gen cast, which it's not that I don't want Worf there, I do. But Doctor Who at least makes a concerted effort to explain how this is fitting into this universe and why he's there versus he just showed up.
I would agree.
So, Better explanation.
I'm not going to give a flack for that. That was a good example. Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think Unit's history, as we've seen throughout the show, is very much, I'd like to meet a villain that's not impervious to bullets, because that's their MO. And a good chunk of that, obviously, is the Brigadier's influence, but a good chunk of that is we're going to bring the guns and the bullets, and we're here to stop invasions. And this is a possible beachhead. Mm-hmm. We don't know what's on the other side of it. It could be a Sontaran invasion fleet. Bring the guns. So I'm fine with Torchwood not being involved and with Unit being the heavies, so to speak.
It was just my initial thought because of the rift issues.
And I agree with you from the standpoint, Glenn, that added level of tension, because knowing Unit the way we do, it's only a matter of time before somebody makes the suggestion of, well, we could blow it up.
Right. That's what you expect out of Torchwood.
And so there's that, now the clock is ticking.
Right.
So.
Right.
Well, and Dr. Phil mentioned the over-the-topness of Malcolm. And while at times I thought he was over the top, but the gleefulness and the gushing in his instance makes sense. He's read about the Doctor, he's learned about the Doctor because of Unit. It's not like this is a Joe Schmo on the street corner gushing about the Doctor.
Based on what he knows from the Doctor's history.
Yeah, he read all the case files. In fact, there's a reference to, you read all my case files. What's your favorite? What about the giant robot?
That's right. Now that you say that, I totally remember
which
that
I was like, that's a really cool reference to robot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am for one that loves any reference to Classic Who, regardless of how weak the story of Classic Who is. In new series. Yeah. I think it's fantastic, regardless.
I would agree.
I loved Malcolm.
I did too. Malcolm is my least problem with this episode. There's things that I thought were a lot more over the top.
And you can complain about him being over the top, but
I don't think he was.
I don't think he was, and I think if he approached that giddy standpoint,
giddy yet eccentric. He's almost a Kettlewell.
Yeah, in a way.
Almost.
But he's a scientific advisor. He's a geek. More so than any of the scientific advisors, including the Doctor, have ever been for UNIT. And he has read all these case files, and more than anybody, he realizes the shoes that he has to fill. And so it doesn't matter how eccentric or how cool or whatever he comes up with, he won't be as good. He knows that. And so that, I think, kind of lends to the over-the-top geekness to him that I've got to be bigger than life and more. I've got to be able to figure this out. And yes, I've invented my own and named them, and, and all of this to compensate.
But how much of that too is trying to fill the shoes so big that you maybe even have a bit of a maybe that offsets your mind a bit, that you might that might put you on tilt as far as your mental capacity.
Yeah, I agree.
As to I'm so overwhelmed with having to fill the shoes of the Doctor that might just kind of put you off mentally a bit.
He reminded me a bit of, and I'm going to blank on the character and actor's name, but the backup Doctor scientist from Stargate SG-1, the guy who was never quite as smart or cool as Dr. Carter, Dr. or Colonel, whatever she was, Major Carter. But was kind of often stuck with the role of filling her shoes when they would get trapped on Planet X, and he'd have to come up with something. And he very much filled that role for me. So maybe I was just more forgiving.
And maybe even more in a bumbling way.
Yeah.
Whenever Reg in Star Trek, I'm going to make the reference.
Whenever
Reg is filling in for Geordi, I mean,
he totally had a Reg
he
feel.
He totally has this awkwardness to him that if you put Reg in charge of engineering on Star Trek, you'd have had basically the same. You'd have had Malcolm. I mean, it would have been the same thing, with the exception of Reg would have been more of a Reg knows the protocol. Reg knows the mechanics of everything. He's just not quite sure of himself. But
right.
yeah, but I mean there's my Star Trek.
So science fiction rules dictate that if you have a totally awesome, smarter than everybody else in the room person, you must back them up by a not quite as cool bumbling idiot.
Yes,
that's
that's
the rule we've learned on television tonight.
What did you guys think of Lady Christina?
Quantum Leap. Gucci was kind of an idiot.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
It's a formula.
I mean, not that he was an idiot. He was bumbling. He was bumbling.
Bumbling, I think, is what we should.
Yeah.
I don't think the idiot is the right.
No,
term
they're very, very
for
smart.
any
Very,
of them,
very smart.
Because
people,
even Reg isn't an idiot.
Yeah, no.
But bumbling, yes,
Bumbling.
no, absolutely.
All right.
But back to Lady Christina. I liked her in the sense that she's a very attractive woman, and I absolutely loved every moment that she was on the screen. On the other hand, and I don't remember which listener mentioned this, but I almost thought she's the over the top for this episode for me. I almost felt that I
think it was Alex that said exaggerated caricature.
Yeah, I don't know that she was an exaggerated caricature, but she's almost the Romana companion, where I don't give her equal footing with the Doctor in the sense of like mental capacity, but maybe in
willing to put herself out there.
Yeah, that heroism. Not that I don't think that she could. That you need strong female heroes. Don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody to think I'm a sexist here, but there's a certain character that you build around the Doctor, and there's a certain character that you build around the companion. And the companion can have heroic moments. The Doctor can have heroic moments. But I think that if you put those two together all of the time, you would have had kind of a clash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There are
they
episodes
definitely clashed in the story, too.
What did they call it? Mary Sue, I think, for whatever reason, is the term. Mary Suing, where you bring a guest star in and they show up, whoever the regulars are. Because that's their function, is to be more cool, more impressive, more Sue Ellen. Maybe that's the one.
It's from Mary Tyler Moore.
Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah, it's Betty White's character.
Yeah, that's where I'm thinking of it from.
Usurp Mary.
So I heard speculation that she's going to be the Doctor's next companion.
Sweet.
Oh, Betty White.
I'm all over that. In fact, I'm starting a petition tomorrow.
Steve Moe. We want Betty White.
A petition tomorrow.
That Hot in Cleveland show can be canceled for all I care. She needs to be on Doctor Who.
Or her big birthday celebration is airing tomorrow night too.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's just it felt very much like it was. Oh, we're that episode. That's what we're doing. This is we've got to deactivate the laser rig. Now we don't. And she just jumps off the thing into the pit, and stop! You've got 30 seconds to fix me before I get there. It's just kind of like, There's a difference between bravado and being overtly stupid. That kind of... a lot of this episode, she felt like she was crossing that line.
I think... I don't know how much of it was her being written and how much of it was her portrayal. This is another of those actresses.
She's a strong actress, yeah. She's a dominant alpha actress, is what she is.
I don't think she's a very good one.
Oh God, boy, you.
Maybe I must not.
She was fantastic in this episode.
She was
her
good.
Her
I thought she was a
character
little
was
flat.
just written poorly. Oh,
I guess
you have
I don't
no
know.
taste in acting. You like Nathan Fillion. You think he's a great actor. Talk about flat.
He's not flat.
There's the flattest actor
depth.
I've ever. Oh
he has
my
more
gosh.
depth than you can imagine.
Now I totally understand. I totally understand your taste in film. Now you perplexed me for many years. You were an enigma to me as far as the things that you liked and didn't like, and now I totally understand. Sorry. Go on.
I just wasn't. I haven't seen anything I've been impressed with her impressed with her in, and I wasn't impressed with her in this. Maybe it was the writing. I don't know. I contributed it to her acting.
I think the character is.
What else have you seen her in that was good?
The short-lived bionic woman.
She was the weakest part of that.
No, she was fantastic.
She
She was the strongest part of that.
She was cardboard.
Oh,
she was total cardboard. Don't let the pretty face fool you.
Well, I am a little.
Don't let the pretty face fool you.
I'm a little rose-colored there as far as the looks.
Is it me that she looked a little bit like Eve Miles?
No,
she
not at all.
Like Eve
oh my
Miles,
gosh!
Oh
no.
yeah,
if Eve
totally
Miles
looked like Gwen
longer,
Cooper.
No.
In the beginning sequence,
eyes are totally different. She doesn't have the gap in her teeth. She doesn't.
The gap tooth is a little different.
The only thing they had in similar was the fact that they're both brunettes, very dark brunettes. No, not at all.
Now, I'm going to side
You're
with
letting
Keith.
the pretty face fool her.
I'm going to side with Keith. Nathan Fillion's a great actor. But I go with Glenn. I don't think she did a bad job at all. I have zero problems with her portrayal of the character.
There were parts of the character that I felt
you don't like strong women in
No, I
film.
like strong women.
Sophia Myles' character, Madame de Pomfrey,
I liked her
very strong
character.
woman.
I don't like her as an actress.
Michelle Ryan.
Yes, Michelle Ryan, very strong very strong actress.
No, that's not it at all.
That's very sexist, Keith.
Keith doesn't like exaggerated caricatures of strong women.
She was a bit of it.
I gotta side with Keith.
There were emotional points in this episode that I did not feel it from
There
her.
are no emotional points. That's where the story falls down. There are very few emotional
even the end,
points
when
in
she
this.
should be upset about going off to prison.
No, she shouldn't be upset
nothing.
because that's not within her character. Because she always escapes.
She feels
and
betrayed.
She does feel betrayed.
She
and
doesn't
you do
portray
see
that at all.
Well, no, you do see that.
No,
you do see that.
I saw it scripted that.
When the doctor denies her traveling with him, you see the hurt in her. You see the hurt in her eyes. You totally see it.
I don't.
But you shouldn't see her feeling bad for herself that she's having to go to prison. You shouldn't see her feeling depressed that she's going to prison, because I think she knows, because there always has been that little bit of luck that's gotten her out of everything, every scrape she's been in. She knows that's going to happen, and the confidence of it that's going to happen is there, and it does, because the doctor helps her out at the end by releasing the handcuffs on her.
Yeah,
No,
breaking out of
totally
prison wouldn't have been a big deal for her.
No, absolutely. It's just very River Song in that sense. That
That's my problem with it. Is it feels very. Now maybe this is unfair because we've actually had a lot more River Song since. We'd only had the one episode with her at this point. Well, the two-parter. She feels like a poor man's River Song. She is a strong female character. She's got almost a death wish, but an over-the-top. I can one up the doctor.
Yeah, that's what I don't like about the character.
She feels very much in that vein.
I'm
I don't think
totally in the
there's anything
same
wrong with
boat.
her acting.
Yeah.
I think the character was.
Yes,
was not
I'm totally in the same boat.
well
I think
written.
it's the
Maybe if she had better script,
she's too strong of a character, and it sort of, there's some friction there with the strong character of the doctor, and I think it doesn't work. And I mean, I suppose I'm grateful that she was just a companion in one special, because
yeah.
Well,
special, yeah,
and maybe
it's
Dr.
fine.
Phil would be the one to ask, but from what I have read, it almost seems that she comes across as a Iris Wildtime is that from Big Finish?
Mm-hmm.
She feels kind of like that type of character. And Phil, please correct me if I'm wrong, but
I haven't heard anything with Iris in it.
So I almost think if you're going to go that route, do it for real. don't invent a carbon copy of this person. Let's go get Iris and bring her into the fold and do it. I'd be down for that. Why not?
Kind of cool.
Now, I like the
maybe
idea
that toes
of
the line of
she's
you
because
can't
she wants the adventure.
because now you have to buy Big Finish to understand who this person is, and that's against BBC's blah blah blah.
I'm sure that's probably true. Yeah.
Why not? So, for that matter, the Penguin. Let's bring the Penguin into an episode.
From Batman?
No, the Penguin from Frobisher, the companion to the Sixth Doctor in the Big Finish audios. He travels with a penguin at one point. What?
I did not know that.
Yes, a talking penguin.
I've seen it.
Oh wow! No, yeah. Anyway, yeah, no, not a strong episode at all. You guys, and you obviously, I mean, nobody has asked me about the worst part of this that I would think would be the worst part of this, the absolute worst part of this.
I kind of like the idea of these humanoid flies that are going around the
You
galaxy.
mean anthropomorphic flies?
No, they're humanoid at this point.
No, they are anthropomorphic. This
flies.
is, again, we fall down on the imaginativeness of Doctor Who. Come on. Please wow me with some aliens. Be creative. Quit making Earth-based animals and putting masks on men and calling it aliens. Stop. BBC, Doctor Who, you can do so much better. We just watched for Friday Night Who 2 great examples of thinking outside the box and coming up with creatures that are different, that are not anthropomorphic. Now, granted, it is poor production quality because Alpha Centauri, which we're going to get there, isn't necessarily the best costume in the world. But thank you for trying. Thank you for stepping out there. Now that we have the ability and the monster shops and the technology to do it, let's do some Alpha Centauris. Let's do some of those in New Who. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll get off my rant. That was my...
Farscape is a great example.
Yes,
imagine it. I don't care if it's a Muppet. Bring a Muppet on the show and do it. Do something different. I totally agree with you. The Swarm alien was cool.
Fine, yeah.
Which was a little Langoliers.
The bug-eyed fly
it was a bit Langoliers.
That looked like it stepped off the set of The Fly, the original 1950 Vincent Price fly, sucked.
I like the throwback to...
No, see, here's the thing. It's too easy for them to say, that's what happened, is they came up with this thing, that was the best they could do, and when somebody said, hey, this kind of looked cheesy like science fiction 50s sci-fi flies, they said, well, this is an homage. You know, that was their excuse. We're doing an homage.
You're doing an homage. If you're doing an homage,
I was never told that beforehand.
Special effects or costuming, you're being lazy.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
my feeling.
You are being lazy.
Now, if you're doing an homage in writing or directing or something like that, that's a little different because there's a visual style there that you're trying to imitate. But if you're doing it with a prop, you're being unimaginative and you're cheating. I'm sorry to anybody who's done that, but
I rolled my eyes initially at these characters. And thought, oh, great, Glenn's going to go on a rant this week.
And you predicted the future
but then there was
accurately.
This great line of they go out and consume the waste of the worlds from people's behinds. And I thought, oh, what other species would do that but a fly?
Again,
I just thought it was funny.
Again, it's almost like they wrote that line to explain their laziness.
I think you just said you expect too much, Glenn.
No, I have come to expect a lot less of Doctor Who over the years, and fortunately, we haven't seen that sort of thing in Moffat years. We have not seen the reusing of anthropomorphic characters.
I'm going to throw an example out there that's been a hot topic of late because
you just want a reason.
I want a reason to talk about it
because you like it.
The Android Invasion, Tom Baker episode, which was released this week for one of this month's selections, features the Kralls pictured on the cover. I wish you could see this at home, but you can't. Look it up. And there's a documentary on here that I've seen everybody on Twitter talking about, all of the people that are in the know and get their advanced copies, and everybody complains about how poorly done the Kralls were. and the limitations of the masks and the fact that I have zero problem with this.
I have zero problem with the Krulls too.
This is a fantastic alien. Mm-hmm. Now, yes, maybe there's some limitations from what the actors inside the suits are, able to do because of the makeup and the costumes and things like that. I would rather see this on a New Who than a giant fly.
Absolutely.
This is one of the areas where I will totally agree with Glenn on this. I don't have the problem that he has with it, but I do think this is for all of the wonder that you've thrown into this special, and I agree with Dr. Phil, this one didn't feel like much of a special. It just kind of felt like an episode that was... In fact, if this had been part of a regular season, this would have been the throwaway episode that I'd been like, meh, it was all right. It's not that it was bad. It's just that we're coming off the high, the relative high, whether you liked it or not, of The Next Doctor, which was the Christmas special. So this one is automatically going to suffer from not so much. And then they gave us kind of a mediocre episode.
That's a big part of my problem with this episode as well. And I'm just going to echo what you've said and what Dr. Phil said. Is we come off of the Christmas special, and the Christmas special, even if, whether you like it or whether you don't, it feels like a Christmas special. It's big, it's grand, it has its moments. And then we're promised these 4 episodes within the year of, what was it, 2009, 2008, 2009, whatever it was. 2008. 2009. We were promised these specials in 2009. And so the first thing that comes into your head is going to be, well, these are going to be maybe not necessarily feature film, but there's at least a step for specials between an episode of Doctor Who and a full-blown made for theatrical release movie of Doctor Who. So you think it's going to be somewhere in between there.
Right.
And this entire episode, this entire special feels like just another episode of Doctor Who. And so when this comes out, I'm thinking, okay, the last one had to be a special because it was a Christmas special. If this is what all the rest of the special is going to be like, it's just going to feel like another season of Doctor Who spread way out.
Yeah.
And that's what I was disappointed about, is it just felt like another episode.
I honestly thought that's just what the specials were.
My opinion changes when we get to Waters of Mars because I think they hit the benchmark with that one. But
the other thing that I personally don't like about this, and maybe it's again because it comes so soon off of it, this to me, plot-wise, feels very much like a retread of Midnight.
Oh yeah, it definitely does.
We've got a group of people trapped on a transport. There's a force that's coming for them, and the Doctor's the only person that can figure it out and save the day. Not that I mean, that's a very cookie-cutter formula. I don't have a problem with that per se. And this one's obviously not nearly as dark as Midnight was. Which
it's a lot brighter.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
In atmosphere, it's lighter, and in mood, it's a lot lighter. There's a lot of comedy in this still.
There is. But it just it very much felt to me like we just did this. I mean, and maybe if there had been some time, and Midnight was a season 1 episode, and then we did this one, I wouldn't be complaining quite as much about it. But it just feels like it's a retread. It feels very much like we just did this episode. Not all that long ago.
See, I guess it doesn't feel that much to me because it's not as claustrophobic as Midnight. We're trapped. We're trapped on a planet, but that's just it. Not Michelle. Well, the actress Michelle, but Christine.
Let's complain about
Lady
the planet.
Christine and the Doctor get to go off. No, the planet worked for me in the sense that once it's explained that this was a thriving planet with a great ecosystem, and it's just essentially been obliviated by this storm.
That's when the story gets
cool.
interesting.
I was like, okay,
I
this
agree
is
with
awesome.
you. But that was cool, and it made sense for the plot. But really, another desert planet?
Well,
ever since Star Wars, everybody has had to do a desert planet. Every single movie.
Well, that's just it.
Every single television series.
The uniqueness
Stargate, Star Trek. Let's go to the desert planet. It's like, really?
The uniqueness of this is the fact that this is a desert planet because
that's the only thing that redeems it.
That's what's fantastic about
it. They gave a reason for it to be.
But unfortunately, you get that dislike of it's a desert planet.
Initially,
and then halfway through or 3/4 of the way through,
besides Dune and
find
Star
out.
Wars, where have we seen desert planets?
Stargate. Star Trek, everybody does it. Yeah. Everybody does it. Star Trek II Wrath of Khan, desert planet. Yeah. Oh, it used to be something else.
Star Trek V.
Star Trek V, desert planet. I mean, it's just, it's so overdone now. Science fiction writers.
Star Trek V.
Stay away from deserts.
Star Trek V, God needs a starship.
Why does God need a starship? I'm asking a question. And there's your Shatner for the day.
Feed with a star.
But yeah, I don't know. It just, again, it kind of felt like production department getting lazy. Whether it was written in the script that way or not, I'm sure it was. I don't want to fault anybody, but when you set that up...
Then the first half is a scriptwriter being lazy.
Yeah, well, this is...
Why not be just a vacated planet?
And I feel like I'm being overly harsh on it.
I think that's picky, but...
They ate all living...
I really do. I feel like I'm being overly harsh on it, because I did enjoy Planet of the Dead. I thought overall it was fun for what it was. But you set us up as a special, and then it doesn't really feel that way. You set us up on a desert planet right off the bat, but then you don't give us the explanation until midway through. And at that point, you've kind of already lost me as now it's not so cool anymore. There's just a lot of expectations that I don't think were met.
Well, maybe
that's my fault. Maybe that's my expectations were set too high.
Maybe why I was okay with the desert planet idea is the fact that there's a big, giant, red, double-decker London-based bus.
I love that.
In the middle of the desert. And so that was very cool to me. And the fact that we're stuck and can't go anywhere because we're on sand trying to drive, and I was fine with that. That totally made total sense to me. So
and felt very Spielbergian.
It did feel very
from Close Encounters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, look, there's another science fiction movie with a desert in it.
Yeah. Well, that one's Earth-based, and that is actually an Earth desert, so... Yeah, I don't know.
I thought the Langoliers and its... While the idea was cool, I still felt they fell a little flat. Okay, they go in and they eat this world... The explanation was cool, but then, okay, that's the threats. Oh, okay, yeah, we need to get out of here. We need to stop it from coming from Earth. Gave her a lot of excitement, a lot of tension, but I just...
You're making any arguments against it yet.
I just didn't feel... Of course the Doctor's going to stop it. I was a little surprised.
Well, don't you think, of course, the Doctor's going to stop it every time you watch an episode of Doctor Who? I mean, he hasn't yet fallen down.
A couple... I honestly, the most surprising thing about this story in general is that a couple made it through. That's the most surprising part of this.
You're right. That's very unlikely.
That once we got to 10 Little Indians mode, not everybody died who you thought was
nobody
going to.
died.
Nobody died.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Except for the bus driver.
That was a nice surprise.
Because he tried to walk back through the wormhole, and he comes through on the other side as a skeleton.
Which I was like, oh,
I loved that.
That was
I'm
really
sorry.
awesome.
If I had been on this bus, I'd have been the bus driver. I'd have just we
just
cross
go
back
back
over, no problem, and I'd be dead now. I thought it was a pleasant surprise that we only had one fatality.
Yes.
During the whole course of this adventure,
because
I kept waiting. It was like, when's this guy going to die? When's that person going to die? When's this couple going to die? This woman's kind of creepy, annoying with her psychic ability. She needs to die next. It didn't matter who it was. It was just they kind of kept hinting.
The Tridivores die.
Well, yeah, but I didn't care about them. So.
Oh,
they were giant flies.
But they were very... that being said, the design of them, you did sort of feel a little bad.
I did
because
feel
you
bad
think,
for
menacing alien. Oh no, we're just we're a couple of guys that were delivering stuff and we crashed.
I like that twist about these. That's why I'm a bit willing to.
But again, you could have done that with any designed alien.
Absolutely,
could have had that same thing, and it would have been cooler.
They could have been big and scary. And then you realize that they're just a couple of schmoes.
They could have been Wookiees.
Wanting to get home to their wives.
They could have been Wampas. I mean, anything.
I'd have taken Ewoks at that point, even though they're teddy bears.
What was... No, I wouldn't have bought that. No. Because I'm sorry.
I don't see
in no universe could an Ewok deliver a refrigerator. It's just not happening.
That's true.
I have this sudden urge now to do the Dire Straits song with Ewoks. Money for nothing.
Money for nothing, and your jigs for free.
Somebody get on that.
I guess I don't have big of a problem about the anthropomorphization, considering.
This image of a refrigerator on a dolly, and it's tipped over, and there's just little arms sticking out underneath it. My apologies out there to anybody who likes Ewoks. I'll follow that up with, why?
Oh.
Sarah's not listening. She's not going to. So I'm saying that.
She can probably hear you from the other room, though.
I want my Utini. Yeah, they can be like jealous of Jawas because they have these big earth-moving machines that can, like, just suck up the droids and do all the work for them, and they're all jealous of them. And that's awesome. I'm making that video.
The waters of Mars.
We've segued a bit there.
A little bit.
Mars 2059.
So much so that Keith is getting us on track.
Wow,
That's amazing.
Mars 2059, Bowie Base 1. Last recorded message. Don't drink the water. Don't even touch it. Not one drop.
Is that all we get?
That's all we get.
Wow.
Well, allow me to retort.
Da-na-na! So
I
far,
would have gone bigger, but you covered your ears.
Yeah,
so
I was
a
afraid.
little-
Well, I realized I was pushing the earbuds further into my ears and realized that's not going to help.
I got the pantomime motion.
Yeah,
of don't scream into the
that's
mic,
where I was
Sean.
going.
So,
Yes.
loved it,
So far, this is my favorite of the specials.
as it should be.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, absolutely. This one's incredible.
Are you sure there's no Cyber King in this one?
There's no Cyber King. But
No 50-foot Cyberman.
there are so many. I'm a sucker for time travel stories. Apparently, I'm a sucker for... What?
Go ahead. These are all time travel stories
yes,
to a point. But
to a
okay,
point,
go ahead.
but-
That's why we introduced him to this, because like, how can you like time travel this much and not have seen Doctor
I'm
Who?
such a huge...
I'm
like
a sucker for time
timeline.
travel. Okay.
I liked Timeline. That's how much of a time travel fan I am. I'm apparently also a sucker for people trapped on a space station or some sorts and lose contact, and it's to the death. Sunshine, Moon, Event Horizon. I mean,
Base under siege.
yeah. I mean, there's something so inherently creepy and scary about that.
Why haven't we had a Base Under Siege episode in the TARDIS?
There's no one can get in the TARDIS.
But what if there was?
No
How
one
scary is that now?
We kind of did.
Sort
with
of
House.
did in Doctor's Wife. Kind of had a base under siege.
Yeah, but there were other factors at work there.
Yeah.
There was other coolness. I want a bottle show. I want somebody to write. They're stuck on the TARDIS, and they can't get out, and there's an evil force, and it's going to kill them all. Run.
Sean, what did you think of Water of Mars?
Loved it. Hands down.
There's not much more you can say. It was just an awesome episode.
I understand why now we're doing a Ice Warriors archive next.
Why are we doing an...
Because
there's no correlation at all, is
there's
there?
all sorts of
they
references.
are on Mars. I mean...
There are,
Oh, not to mention that one reference where Ten says that it was probably the Ice Warriors that froze the virus so that it wouldn't get out.
yeah. Which there was so much references in those 2-day Ice Warriors, which I thought was cool.
Almost makes you hanker for a real Ice Warrior story now.
We ought to do. You know what? We ought to do. I got an idea. Let's do an Adversary Archives on the Ice Warriors now, since we've.
What a fantastic
since we've had
idea.
mention of them.
We should do that. I'll set it up.
Okay, you get on that.
I'll get on that. I loved from everything. Everything in this is fantastic. I love the fact that we are on Mars, dealing with.
I love the fact that we're on Mars.
I love the fact that we're on
It
Mars.
starts out, and the first thing I said while watching this episode...
This isn't no Martha's Moon. This is Mars.
Yeah, that's way cooler. Now, I love the fact that we're on Mars. I love stories that are solar system based. I have always been a fan. Like, you're a big fan of time travel stories and things like that. I love when you can do an intelligent science fiction piece that doesn't necessarily have to be in a galaxy far, far away. I love stuff that's set in our solar system because it's familiar.
If in Doctor Who you can get away from Earthbound stories,
that's a bonus. Just one planet away.
2010, Jupiter. Love it. You know,
we started up and landed on Mars, and I said, that's a good Mars.
It's a really good Mars.
They did a really good job.
That's the other thing.
The
production, for as much as I complain about the production value in Planet of the Dead, I have nothing but praise for the production value
of course,
of Waters
the
of Mars.
exteriors are slim, so they can put more into it.
Yeah. Well, and that's fine. Now, admittedly, Mars is a desert, but I'll let that slide because it's Mars. I mean, it's established. It's
but it's more than a desert. It's rocks.
It's rocks and it's red, and And I'm sure it was done with a filter. I don't care. I love it. I love Bowie Base 1. I love the fact that we went there.
I didn't
You
catch
just like it because Mars is not Tunisia desert. It's like Death Valley desert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't catch the Bowie reference until way late.
Bowie Base 1!
Until another reference to, like, one of the flashes of, like, the computerized the Wikipedia entries that I was like, hey, wait a minute, Bowie Base 1, really? Oh, that's so cool.
How cool is that?
On Mars.
Ziggy Stardust and the spiders from Mars. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff in there. Space Oddity, he says something about going to Mars. Anyway, I love that. Those are the little touches that get me as a fan all kinds of giddy, and I can't explain why. It's just cool. I love the design of the base. I love the claustrophobic feel, the bulkhead doors, the domes with the plants.
And the constant references from the Doctor of, why these long hallways? Why not motorized bikes? I'm telling you, just little motorized bikes. And then Adelaide, finally at the end, I get your points. Bikes.
Well, at the point they're using Gadget, though, as their motorized bike.
Well, no, that's even later.
Oh, that was even later. Yeah, you're right. That's right.
What he wouldn't have given for a Segway.
Oh, yeah. Which Gadget ends up being, pretty much.
Note to science fiction writers. If you're going to invest and involve us with a story that is set in a spaceship or space base, I don't know, like Event Horizon, that is 19 miles long,
that it takes 2 hours to run across.
Take a cue from present-day Earth. Do you know what they ride on oil tankers? Because they are so long from bow to stern. They ride bikes.
ATVs.
They ride ATVs. They ride Segways. Anything
Golf
with
carts
wheels.
even.
Yeah. It's a science. You built a spaceship. Give them a bike. Okay, enough of that.
The fact that they
wasn't
called
in
it
NASA's budget.
Yeah, really? Come on. The outside of our ship is covered with aluminum foil. We can't afford a bicycle.
if they hadn't have called out to it, I wouldn't have thought of it either. That's the thing.
Oh, I think about it every single time I see one of these things. How come they don't have a bike?
It's Doctor Who. They run. That's what they do.
Well, then it would be riding through corridors instead of running.
Exactly.
I love the claustrophobic nature of the sets. I love the story. I love the absolute over-the-top creep factor. This is a scary episode.
And Adelaide would have been such a fantastic companion.
Yeah. Yeah, she really would.
And because she is a super strong female lead.
And
because
touche.
Unlike Michelle Ryan, this is an actual good actor who's doing a good job being a strong female lead.
Yeah.
I didn't even mind the robot because
Gadget.
For as annoying and stupid and Jar Jar-like as the thing was, Tennant plays off of it, and he totally treats this thing like it's got a little robotic brain in there that he can communicate with on some wavelength.
It's just basically a glorified RC car.
It's all remote control, but
maybe it's shades of K9. Maybe he thinks about
it in the hallway about how people are treating robotics the way they are, and they're like, one person said, even my friend turned it into a dog, and he's like, well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Robotic dog.
Nice.
Yeah.
Up there. I will side with Dr. Phil. The specials in particular, there are, if I have complaints about New Who on the audio mix, there are times where the music seems to completely bombast whatever's going on screen, and I can't hear the dialogue.
Especially with
the specials more so than any other episodes they've done.
It seems more with David Tennant than even Matt Smith.
You ought to check the mixing on your.
It may be. Maybe it's a problem with that.
I never had a problem.
But because we've watched him here and we've watched him at Mel's, and we've had the same thing both ways. Is that it feels very much like it's so overpowering. I'm sitting in the orchestra pit with them, and it's a great score. It's a wonderful piece of music. I can't hear anything else about what's going on.
Really? I didn't think I've ever had that problem.
And there were several times when I had to either back up, put on the subtitles, or just kind of go with the Doctor's doing something clever. Because he's explaining it, but he's explaining it at 90 miles an hour. Right, so, I gave up. The story all of that was preface to set this up. This is a strong story. It is a well-written story. It's atmospheric. It's creepy. It moves. It does what it needs to. And it gives us this ethical problem. The time travel. What do we do? This is a time-locked event. I cannot change it. I cannot move it. I cannot do anything with it. Screw it. I'm going to do it anyway. And how powerful is that? This is the Time Lord Victorious.
He became someone other than the Doctor.
He totally did.
Time period,
and I love it. And here's the reason I love it: is it is shades of that darkness. It is shades of Tom Baker's Doctor at the end of Key to Time, when he's going on and on and on about the power that he wields. Mm-hmm. And I said, wouldn't it be interesting? This is a degree off of what
or even
that could
him
lead to.
during Genesis of the Daleks.
Yeah.
Do I destroy? I mean,
or the end of Deadly Assassin when he's not Deadly Assassin, Invasion of Time when he's built the DMAC gun.
DMAC gun.
Yeah,
this is right in that vein of what if the Doctor was not a force for good, and not necessarily the Master, but just
his own force,
doing what he deemed to be right or wrong. But what if that moral compass was slightly askew? And what would happen? And this, to me, is the perfect setup for this. It's very much Fire of Pompeii. It's totally the same setup. The difference is Russell T. Davies has given us both sides of the coin now. Fires of Pompeii, we had Donna, the human conscience, guiding his moral compass and saying, this is what you're saying you can't do, but this is what needs to be done. And maybe planting the seed for now that he's here and companionless and doesn't have that Jiminy Cricket, doesn't have that conscience to go by, deciding, I'm going to do this because I can. Not necessarily because it's the right thing to do, not because it's what should happen, not because somebody deserves to live
because
life,
I want to do it.
Because I want to. And how lost is he at that point?
That's funny, though, that some people point to the fact that I saw this discussion a lot after this episode aired. A lot of people pointed to the fact that if Donna had been there, would the events have turned out the way that they were?
Well, the family wouldn't have been saved.
Well, here's the problem I have with that, is if you look at the Fires of Pompeii, who was there pleading with the Doctor to change the events, to save these people? Who
Donna,
was there
absolutely.
that talked him into rescuing the one family that gets out of Pompeii? It was Donna. I think, now, regardless of the fact that she's gone through the Dr. Donna meta-crisis, if she were there, it would be her human side siding with the Doctor and telling him that he needed to do this. He needed to rescue these people. So I disagree that had Donna been there, it would have gone much different.
I'm not saying Donna in particular.
No.
I'm saying any companion.
And I'm not saying that you're arguing that point. I'm saying that I thought it was interesting to see that discussion come out. That a lot of people were saying, look how lost he is without a companion.
Yeah.
Well, maybe any companion, yes, but Donna particularly no, because he laments he's lamenting the loss of Donna still at this point.
He laments the loss of everyone, of all the companions that have moved on in the last story.
Right. No, absolutely. And so,
but he's feeling that because of the loss of Donna. I mean, that's definitely the trigger for that.
Yeah, I guess because I'm watching this out of order and having seen Let's Go Hitler, the Doctor talking about, well, how about somebody I haven't screwed up?
Oh, you're talking Matt Smith. Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm just, because my timeline of Doctor Who isn't chronological. It doesn't seem as out of place. That's not to say
that if Donna hadn't been there or anybody had been there, maybe he would have been a little more tempered.
Here's the fundamental key difference if Donna had been there. Fires of Pompeii, she is arguing for a nameless, faceless family from the past.
She's arguing to stop this whole thing.
She is.
Well, the entire thing at first.
But at first, and the Doctor says no, and she settles for a family. Mm-hmm. Give me one family. Give me these people. Give me somebody. And the Doctor agrees to it because they are nameless, faceless, theoretically.
Right.
Nobody important. Not to, because in the Doctor's words, everybody's important, but, they're not anybody. This is a little different because this is a specific history book person. This is somebody who is going to inspire humanity to break out of of Earth's orbit and go.
Yeah.
And it's because of what happens. And Donna would fight for that. But the Doctor, I think, would turn around and realize, as much as you want it, this is one of those times I have to say no. That's the humanity.
That's why I say that we might have had a tempered Doctor there. However, I put this in a whole different perspective. If Donna had not planted the seed in Pompeii that this can be done for the little people without consequences to the timeline from a fixed point, I'm not sure that the Doctor would have gone as far as changing events here. And I certainly think that that Donna or any companion traveling with the Doctor would have tempered the arrogance that he has. That's where we need to key in on the. It's not saving the individuals.
Oh no!
It's the fact that he does it very pompous. The Time Lord Victorious. Had he been tempered in that, he wouldn't have made the comments like, I can save you, and I can even save the little people. I'm the winner in this whole thing. That would have been tempered, and that's where even Donna or any companion would have tempered the Doctor, and we wouldn't have had this escalate to the point that we did.
That's where Adelaide is such a good balance for him, where she puts him in his place.
Well, to have her
that's not right.
To have her,
you're wrong.
To have her,
and then
not allow him to win by going so far as taking her own life.
Yeah,
but
even the comments she makes to him, you can tell, cuts him deep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that.
It's a wake-up call.
He's putting on a bravado of, no.
It's too late, but it is a wake-up call.
Yeah, and then the fact that she goes and does that, so good.
It is, and I know there are a lot of Tennant fans, I know Sarah in particular, and Chrissy kind of echoed it too, that are not fans of this episode because of this dark turn that he takes.
He's not their Doctor at this point.
And it's totally right. They are absolutely correct that it's not their Doctor anymore. It's not the Doctor that we started with, who was all, I know, Barcelona, and that promise of fun that we're getting. It's mutated into something else. And I think that was very carefully constructed by Russell T Davies over the course of these specials, that he is companionless. And I think it shows a very interesting keynote to 40-some-odd years of Doctor Who history of why he keeps companions around. It's not just for the ooh-ah factor and being able to look through the universe, look at the universe through their eyes, but keeping him on an even keel and keeping him from becoming too big for his britches or too arrogant or too what. There's always that person that kind of reminds him of why he's out there and why he can't do it. And I thought that was a stunning revelation and a genius direction to take it at this point. Because after 40 years of television, where do you go with a character? How do you make it fresh? You do things that you maybe haven't done before. I really liked this.
I did too. The other thing that I noticed about this as well is, as you're watching this, are you like me? Did you get chills when he turns around and comes back and he's doing this heroic, or did you sit and go, "Whoa, you shouldn't be doing this"?
I got chills.
You weren't. Yeah, exactly.
And then
you're not there. You're so caught up in the moment that you almost feel guilty of cheering him on when Adelaide chastises him. And
it's not till the end that I'm like, oh no,
yeah, exactly.
Have done this.
That's where this becomes a fantastic episode, where it's written well enough that it suckers you in, that you're cheering him on. You're Donna there at that point saying, go back and save them. Just turn around. Don't walk out. You almost can't believe that he's going, even though this is what the Doctor should have done.
Yeah.
You can't believe that he's walking away from Bowie Base 1 headed back to the TARDIS.
Oh, yeah.
And when he turns back, you're cheering, you're fist pumping the air. Yeah, go save him, Doctor. You're the man.
It helps that you get the characters on Bowie Base 1 are such strong characters.
You feel as much for them as the Doctor does in that episode.
Absolutely.
And that's where this episode works.
This goes back to the strong writing. Every character in this is well written. There are no caricatures here. There are no people that you kind of go, meh. Even though, I remember when we talked, as strong as the episodes are with the first Ood two-parter that we watched.
The Planet of the Ood.
Satan Pit.
Saint Pit. And,
speaking of Ood...
Impossible Planet.
Yeah, Impossible Planet and Saint Pit.
You
got them backwards that time.
I got them backwards. As strong as those two episodes are, the characters in those episodes, I remember we talked about, they're kind of, we've got this guy, we've got that guy, we've got the techno geek, we've got this. Nobody on Bowie Base 1 comes across that way.
No, not
they,
really.
They all feel so strong. And the emotional connection to these people, I mean, like I said, it's a scary episode. When the guy in the water, the makeup was great, too.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Stuck corn out his mouth.
I kind of wish they would have explained the water a bit better. Why water?
No, I didn't need it. I mean, it's a water-based virus that utilizes the water in the body.
Utilizes the water in the body, but it doesn't explain how it creates more water for the body.
It's not necessarily creating more water. It's utilizing all of
the rest of the body would be
dehydrated.
I think
that's what I think it conveys enough visually that at one point they would just become dry husks if that virus was not able to move on to the next host. That they would have just become
or possibly reabsorbing the water off the floor,
and that could be as well.
I mean, it was an
the
abyss
dryness
moment.
around
it just seemed a bit more water than the human body actually.
We're like 90% water, I guess, or 80% or something like that. Water. So,
the scene where he puts his hand on the
percentage-wise, but how many gallons of water that we would actually hold, or liquid that he could push forward.
It's part of the suspension of belief for the film.
Well, and again, I'm working under the assumption
the story is so good, I'm willing to excuse that. For
maybe this is my Keithism for it in this one. For I don't care because it was so well done. Maybe they can reabsorb the cast off water through the bottom of their feet,
perhaps,
and recycle that as they're going. Because I look at it as the abyss. They can polymerize it, they can plasticize it, they can do whatever they want with it. Okay, it's just they can control water. Got it. Let's go on. And so I didn't feel like I needed that, but
I just would have liked to see more exploration a little bit into.
No, because then it would have been too long of an episode. You even become invested in the two characters you know the least about, and that's the two guys in the garden. I mean, that's where this works so well, is the fact that those two guys, where you get such a brief introduction to them, and you don't know much about them, you already sympathize with them when they are overcome by this water, by this virus. It's such a fantastic episode. It feels bold. It feels epic. It feels like a special. It feels almost like a feature-length film to me. This is what all of them should have been.
Yeah,
this is exactly what all of them should have been. And this is that. Unfortunately, it seems to me that they focused on that for this episode and fell down on previous episodes.
I agree 100%. I think They're so often with Doctor, and we've joked about it with Classic Who, where we've been introduced to a character very early on, and we look at this person and go, "Oh, you're dead. You are so dead," and we're almost cheering for the demise of this individual. Yeah. And I didn't get that with any of these people. I genuinely felt real terror for all of them when whatever this was coming for them.
But I think the other thing that this story does is not set up the anti-hero or the anti-villain. Which a lot of stories will set up somebody to make you feel like they're the protagonist before we really introduce the protagonist.
Well, they almost did that with the second in command.
They start to, but
he had a very Robert Carlyle feel to him.
The thing is, though, it's you see it's not even necessarily the adversary or the antagonist feel of him. It's just maybe the conflict between the male-female,
he's the guy that if this outside force weren't an issue, there'd be an issue with him.
Yeah,
instead.
Absolutely, and maybe to a point. But nobody really feels strongly in that sense. And in fact, when he becomes the one that destroys the rocket ship, and for the sake of that was just, that was so very anti-hero.
Such a very redemption of anything that you would have felt ill about. It was like you made the right call, as much as it sucked. You did right. So.
Absolutely,
and I really enjoyed.
You invest so much in every one of these characters.
I really enjoyed seeing how, they're going to escape. They're trying this, and how they eventually get to the point of activating whatever 5, stage 5, or
I can't remember what it's called.
I can't remember either. But how they got to that point, and then the fact that the Doctor was the one that put them up to that, pushed Adelaide to that point. I thought was fantastic too.
I got to go and talk about the end when they're on the street. The TARDIS,
which we never talked about in the last episode, where
we do get the
knock, the first reference in Planet of the Dead, the first reference of knock 4 times.
Can I read it out? I have it.
You
right
can
here.
read
If
it
you
out.
have it, read it.
You be careful, because your song is ending, sir. It is returning. It is returning through the dark. And then, Doctor, oh, but then, he will knock 4 times. And that's spoken by Carmen, who is the low-level psychic from Planet of the Dead.
And so we get to the street after we've rescued Adelaide and become Time Lord victorious.
And she kills herself.
How...
The David Tennant sells that so well.
The pompous,
the realization,
I'm here and I've done this and I'm so great,
sinks.
and then and it was so beautifully handled with just the pop, and the flash,
and the way he recoils when that happens,
and the realization, and all of a sudden you've been knocked off your totem pole there, haven't you?
Yeah,
you
because
really knocked a few
not only
pegs
has he
down.
been, as Keith said, he's been cut by her words. Then when that happens, it's just like
that was the final.
That's the final jab.
It was the she stabbed him, and then she twisted.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
His kudos. Such a strong performance by David Tennant in this.
Well, and then Ood Sigma shows up.
Yeah, what was up with that?
Well,
I'm guessing I'll find out in the next.
Well, no. That harkens to the fact that the Ood was it Ood Sigma that told him that your song is ending.
Yeah, and the Ood told him that.
That is him realizing that.
I guess I didn't.
What Carmen said in the last episode, and what he is now visualizing now and connecting to what the Ood had told him.
I guess I didn't realize that the Ood was a figment of his imagination.
I don't think it was a figment of... No,
I
think it was not at all a figment of
I think
the Ood was literally standing there?
I think it was a psychic projection.
Yeah, it's a psychic projection.
The
Ood are very high-level psychics.
Yeah, well, because of the Ood mind.
Yeah, and you can't put it past them to be able to do something like that. No, again, we have a lot of more foreknowledge than you do.
Oh, yes.
But yeah,
You're looking at this in 2020.
Trust us on this.
Even then, I fully believed, though, that was a actual manifestation of the Ood, whether it be in an astral presence or whether it be a physical presence.
Oh, I thought it was a physical presence.
I didn't think it was the Doctor in his imagination.
See, he's got a little. Until you guys were talking.
Oh, okay,
now.
okay. Sorry. Yeah.
So you're confusing me.
No, we certainly did that. Yeah,
he's got a little Yoda rocket pod hidden around the corner.
Anyway, so
that makes me very excited.
I think we all agree that Planet of the Dead is and Waters of Mars is fantastic. So
Waters of Mars may be one of my top David Tennant stories.
I would concur.
I would go so far as to say it's probably in my top, however many you wanted to list, whoever.
Well, it's probably in my top 5.
Top 10, for sure.
I'd say top 5. I'd say it's in my top 5.
Just because
it's up there with Blink and the Girl in the
It's
Fireplace.
so well done.
Yeah,
top 5 new Who?
Tennant.
Or who? Oh, Tennant?
I'll go top 5 total.
Oh, new
that's what
all of Who.
That's what he was saying. That's
top
why
10
I was
total.
Clarifying for you.
I don't know. There's so much Who out
Top
there.
10 total. Not necessarily top 5,
there's so much
but
Who
top
out
10.
there. I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Well,
can you include 2-parters as one?
Sure, I'll allow that.
Okay. It might break my top 10.
Well, I guess you really then if you're going to pin me down on it, then do you count, okay, this is a favorite story versus a really good story? Because I love, there's a couple of them that I absolutely love that are complete dogs. I'll freely admit that. Time in the Ronnie, I don't think anybody would dispute with me that it's kind of a meh story. But I love it. So, is that going to make my top 10? No. Unless you did a top 10 of stinkers that I love.
Right.
But Waters of Mars, there's
Well, you could do top 10 favorite.
Yeah, there's no downside to this one. I just
No,
don't
it's
see
absolutely
anything
fantastic.
anywhere.
Anyway, Sean, what do we got coming up next week?
Coming up next week, we're going to do Friday Night Who on the 6th at midnight on Friday. Central.
Not the 6th. But we're doing what we should have done on the 6th.
Oh, you're right.
That's why I pointed to it to make sure.
You pointed to it to make sure that I did that.
Yeah.
The 20th.
We're going to travel back in time.
The 20th. This coming Friday, we push play at midnight, which will technically be Saturday morning. And I know it's early. I want to throw a shout-out out there to all of the Doctor Who bar folk. I was fortunate enough to join them this past Wednesday for another of my favorites.
Keith and I watched along. We were at work on Twitter and saw a lot of the tweets.
I saw some of the tweets.
I did. I didn't see them all, but I saw a lot of them.
We watched Seeds of Doom, and it was a blast all over again. And they were screaming Scorby and just Scorby! So we had a lot of fun with that. But if you get the opportunity, look up on Twitter, hashtag.
Well, you're welcome for me letting you know that they were.
And yes, thank you for sending that out there. I'm remiss. Credit where credit's due. I would not have known if I did not get.
I saw that.
So, are you going to join them?
My first thought in my head was Scorby.
And I wish you guys could have seen this because I was actually out and about. I had to get a new battery. My car died. I had all these errands that I had to do on that Wednesday, and my car wouldn't start. And I was thinking it was an alternator or starter or something big. Fortunately, it turned out to be just a battery. So I got jumped and went out and was like, well, I'm going to go buy a battery. So I'm at Sam's Club, which is the local warehouse, Costco-type place, and they're installing the battery. And for those that don't know what a Sam's Club is, I'm just trying to...
nationwide, I don't think Sam's Club's local.
But there's people in the UK that...
Yeah, but UK, yes.
Yeah, no. Well, there are local, not local. Anyway, it's a Walmart. So
that's why I laugh.
Local, but not local.
When I hear local,
and especially not local.
When I hear local, I think local.
It's like you saying I went to our local Hastings. I went to our local Sam's Club. Not that Sam's Club is local, but the one here is local to us. I didn't drive to Kansas City to do it. Anyway. So I'm there, and they're installing the battery. And so I go to the cafe, and I'm sitting there, and I pull out my computer, and Sam's has free Wi-Fi. I was like, oh, cool, I'll jump on. And I jump online.
Now, do they only have Wi-Fi locally, or...
Do you really want to drag this story out any more than it has been? Or do you just want to be quiet and let me tell it?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead and finish.
So I jump on the Wi-Fi, and my Twitter pops up, and I see flood of tweets from Dr. Who Bar. And I was like, oh, that's today! Because as most things, I get very excited about joining people for their presentations and then space it off and forget about it and don't do it. Mm-hmm. So then I'm rummaging around, and I
odd
move.
Times for us.
Yeah, for us it's in the middle afternoon. So I'm rummaging around, and I'm pulling things out of my bag, and I happen to have my hard drives and everything. I've got my digital copy of Seeds of Doom with me because I planned ahead thinking maybe. And so then I'm moving a freezer away from the wall so I can reach the plug-in to plug my hard drive in, to plug it into the computer, to accept the Wi-Fi.
I didn't realize it went
I went all kinds of stuff. So then I'm tweeting, yeah, I'm going to jump on. And I hook it up, and I go, and I hit play, and it comes up with the Apple, you can't play this. It's like, what do you mean? You're QuickTime. I don't like it, but you play everything. Not this. So then I'm digging, and I have to go it online, and I have to find something plug-in or a new app, or how can I convert it from this into this? Because, of course, all my stuff is Windows-based, because I haven't converted it all over to the Mac yet, and just one thing after another. So I finally found a plug-in for QuickTime that allowed it to go through, like, a full episode later. And I'm tweeting along anyway. Have we got to the
from
part
memory?
From memory. Have we got to the part where this happens? And they're like, "Oh, did you finally join us?" No, not yet.
Still working on it.
And people are staring at me. The people at the cafe are like, "What is this guy doing?"
Because now he looks like he has his entire office set up. Because he's got his laptop,
the laptop's out,
and he's got all this stuff plugged. He's probably got his power supply plugged into the back with the laptop and the
people at Sam's, because I've moved their freezer, and I'm over in the corner trying not to bother anybody. My laptop is perched on the edge of this Formica, picnic bench. My laptop, my hard drive, my external drive is actually sitting on top of a shopping cart next to the freezer, and there's cords everywhere. So then I get up to go get a refill, and I have to climb over everything and under the wires to go get a drink and come back. And people are just staring at me like this. And for the first 15 minutes of the setup and all the wires and everything, and then there was a lot of swearing and screaming at the computer about why can't I get on. So I made a concentrated effort to join the Doctor Who Bar guys. But we had a lot of fun.
When you finally got joined...
At episode 4, so I missed the first half.
And your battery was ready.
Yeah, then they said, your battery's ready.
Yeah, he says, I got to go. Sorry.
So I joined in for part of 3 and 4 and then had to leave. I didn't get home in time. Because I'm sure I was
It was a lot of fun watching your antics on Twitter. This was even better.
Way longer than I needed to be. But,
this was even better.
So if you get the opportunity, guys, hashtag DWBar. They're a lot of fun. And I'm not sure what they're doing next, but I heard rumors of Earthshock.
I'll have to try to take off Wednesday off and join them.
Yeah, you should just do that. Leave Glenn at work and
I joined Doctor Who UK or Friday Night Who UK.
You did join Friday Night Who. I don't know if they're still.
I haven't
Mark
heard
and Alex,
anything.
are you guys still doing that?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that.
Anyway, on
I
our
got in
end,
trouble with Mark's.
and I told him I told the Dr. Who bar guys, it's like, hey, open invite, guys. You can join us on Friday Night Who. And they were all kind of like, at 6 in the morning? I don't think so. And yes,
it's
I
different when
it's
2 in the afternoon for us as opposed to 6 in the morning for them. Yes.
But, if you happen to be up early on a Saturday, if we're watching one of these 6 or 7 parters that has happened last week and this coming, you can join in at 8 and still catch part of the story.
We've seen Robbie join us, Robbie Bonham. We've
Robbie
seen
Bonham join us. Moldwitch
joins us occasionally, yeah.
And Reese from Australia every now and then shows up,
which is
it's a different time there.
Not as
it's the next day.
Mark and Alex,
I think it's the next afternoon in Australia when he's joining us. But
so it's out there. If you're not watching Friday Night Who with us, watch Doctor Who with somebody and tweet along. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
But we, this week, on the 20th, which technically going to be Saturday, but we push play at midnight, on Patrick Troughton's story, The Seeds of Death, which we would have done a lot sooner.
Not to be confused with this week's Doctor Who bar, which was Seeds of
Doom. And there's been a lot of back and forth on our end on which one is this. So you can look for the hashtag The Seeds of Death, which we're going to give Keith a proper introduction to the Ice Warriors this week, which we haven't really got with the Peloton stories yet. And then our...
they better live up to the expectations delivered in these last two.
Well, we'll find out what you think. And then next week, we're going to put the specials on hold. We're going to make you wait one more week to reveal everything. And we're doing an adversary archive, Glenn. I just wrote this down for you. Since you suggested we should do it, I thought this was a great opportunity. So we're going to do an adversary archive.
I'm glad you did that. It was a good thing. Good timing.
Good timing. It just happened to work out so good.
Waters of Mars.
On the Ice Warriors. And we'll be reviewing The Seeds of Death, Curse of Peloton, and The Monster Peloton, which were the last 3.
It's fortunate that we've watched those two.
Isn't that weird how that worked out?
Serendipity.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing those.
Honestly, I didn't realize that's why you guys had planned Ice Warriors archive.
Oh, because of the Waters of Mars.
You
knew we were doing the archive.
I knew we were doing that. I just thought it was a random archive. I had no idea that was why.
Sean had a method to his madness.
And until...
Should I be honest with you now?
Until Friday Night Who, and I thought, hey, wait. I'm going to watch Waters of Mars. Are there Ice Warriors on Waters of Mars? I had no idea, even that there were references. So, kudos to you. You surprised me.
I'm going to completely blow my cover here, just to be honest. We hadn't done an adversary archive, not including the Daleks, because we've already done the Daleks. But the last one was the Sontarans, which was all the way back in November, and I kind of thought, well, we don't really have anything coming up that's an adversary archive, so let's do one. And I just grabbed Ice Warriors because they were kind of next on my list of stories that I hadn't seen.
They're in enough episodes, too.
Yeah, that we could do one. And it wasn't until after I'd posted the schedule and you guys got all excited about it that I looked at it and went, oh, Waters of Mars. They were referenced in there. Cool.
And here I thought you had
I know, you were giving me all kinds of credit. So I serendipitied myself. is how cool that worked out.
Serendipitied myself. I'm going to get a T-shirt made that says that.
We could sell them online.
We could sell them.
Now, for purposes of the broadcast, we are going to attempt to also watch The Ice Warriors, which is another Patrick Troughton story, which our friend Dr. Phil was kind enough to have dug up and sent us a VHS copy. I think somewhere we still have a VCR that we can plug in.
Well, you got this TV down here.
Yeah, I've got the TV down here. So we'll get that plugged in so that we can cover that as well and really kind of go. Because that was actually part of my initial plan was let's do Ice Warriors, and then it came as a great shock to me that it's never been released on DVD. And I'm not sure how this VHS is set up, as if the story arcs will be there, or because I know there's episodes missing from this one.
There are 2 episodes. It's 3,
there's
2 and 3
total. It's 4 total, and 2 and 3 I think are missing.
No, there's 6 total.
There's 6 total. Now.
Oh, there are 6 total. Oh, well, then you're going to get a good chunk of the story.
We'll get a large section of the
okay.
story, and I think it's 2 and 3.
I still maintain that you owned this on VHS 10, 15 years ago.
I probably did once.
And I borrowed it because I know. Even reading the synopsis, I've seen it.
I have to admit, I've fallen down on the job because until this week, this month when we started doing these, I had never seen an Ice Warrior story. I had heard about them on Big Finish. I'd listened to a couple of Big Finish audios and loved them. I had never seen an Ice Warrior in the flesh, so to speak, on video or DVD. So it's been a lot of fun for me, too. But so as currently planned, those will be the 4. If you're doing homework and really want to bone up for this week, Ice Warriors, Seeds of Death, Monster Peloton, or Curse of Peloton, Monster Peloton.
Glenn, you're reading a novelization.
I'm actually reading the novelization of Ice Warriors in preparation for this. Part of that is because there may be a chance that I won't be able to see this on video before we get there, because I've got a lot going on in this next week. Another thing I was going to do to add maybe a little color is there is an IDW comic book called Cold-Blooded War, which features the Ice Warriors, and I thought maybe I'd just throw a little bit of 2 cents of that. I just finished reading it today. It's a Doctor and Donna story. And
who wrote it?
It's written by Richard Starkings. Actually, the story is by Gary Russell. So, and it involves, actually, there's a brief guest appearance by one of our favorite characters, which we referenced earlier, Alpha Centauri. Although she is not in it very much. But in the introduces a race called the Draconians, which the Doctor's familiar with. So I don't know if there's a Doctor Who out there that featured the Draconians that I did.
Draconian sounds really familiar.
Well, Draconian Society is a society that focuses on. Draconian is the stifling of women's rights or something. If you're a Draconian society, it's very male dominated, right? Am I speaking wrong?
The only thing that's springing to my mind, and this is going to sound horrible, but the Draconians were the main villains originally in the refurbished Buck Rogers miniseries series with Gil Gerard.
That's right. I do remember
which
the
had Queen
Draconians
Ardala.
Yeah.
So I don't know how male-centric her society was, but
I think Earth-based in at least at least in our vocabulary. I think a Draconian society is a society that suppresses women.
This is how bad my history goes. Is that you say this and I go Buck Rogers as opposed to Earth history? That I speak volumes of what I remember from class.
But anyway, I thought I'd add some flavor. I'm not going to go into a full review of it, but I thought I might add some.
Why not? It'll be our first comic book review.
Our first comic book review.
That only one of us has read.
Well, you guys
we have access to
it now.
That's
so
true. We can borrow blends.
Absolutely.
Borrow his Patty.
Not leaving the iPad here.
Oh, come on.
I'll read it at work.
Anyway.
So, and then the following week, for both Friday Night Who and our podcast, will finally be the end of the specials.
So in order for me to tweet along with the specials, I need to watch it ahead of time, right?
I would highly recommend it.
It's not a bad idea.
I don't think...
I'm going to.
Although we didn't get very silent the last 2 weeks with the... Peladon episodes, although
that's old Who. Yeah, it's a little different.
It's a little different, and it's not as such a.
Well, this is focused because it's all 1 hour. Well, 2 hours total.
Well, and it's not such a. Oh, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like the season 4 finale would have been. Had I not seen it before, you guys would have kept me from...
Add it to an addendum for the special we're getting... No. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
I'll post it to the website.
No, I think...
Did you see my addendum to the last week's episode?
I didn't. Did you addendum?
I addendummed.
What did you addendum?
There is no release of Attack of the Grass.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I did see that, yes. Good job.
Thank you.
If this was sports, I'd pat you on the butt. Good job.
There's no addendums needed this week, so...
No addendums needed this week. Join us next week.
Hang on. One more thing. I'm not trying to run long. Congratulations go out to Chrissy, who graduated this week, or yesterday.
Did I see she has her... Does she have her BA or her Master's?
Master's.
Master's now.
In library science.
Wow.
So that is
congratulations.
Quite the accomplishment. That entitles her to a doctor title, doesn't it?
Not a master's.
Not a master's.
No, now she can go on to doctorate.
She can get a doctorate now if she wanted to. Yeah.
This is
in library.
Are you going to be Dr. Chrissy?
Ooh,
throwing that challenge out there.
She's probably ready to just kind of take a break for a while,
I imagine,
and delve back into
it. And a very, very special, and I'm sure Chrissy and others have suffered through this as well, so I don't necessarily want to negate theirs, but anytime I hear this, I do try and make a mental note of it. A thank you to Aspie Mitch, who joined us on Twitter for Monster Peladon, despite the fact that it was a 6-parter and ran, conceivingly into the wee hours of the morning, and had a 9 a.m. or an 8 a.m.
9 a.m.
A 9 a.m. class and had to be up at 7 the next morning.
Which she's an hour ahead of us.
On top of everything else.
Because she's, Eastern?
Yeah.
We're Central.
She must be in the Eastern
Chrissy
time
is
zone.
Mountain.
Yeah.
So right. Chrissy's 2 hours behind us.
That is true.
Or is an hour behind us. We're in the middle, and Aspie was an hour ahead of us.
Yeah. So she had an extra I don't know if she slept that night, but the fact that she was
She
willing to
went quiet there
sacrifice
for a bit. So
She was willing to
sacrifice.
bowed out a little early, but she did.
That doesn't matter in my mind.
She was
She
in
made it
there.
to the end.
Yeah, no, I don't think she did. But she was
Anybody who joins
she was
us
in
for-
there for the majority of
For
it.
Friday Night Who, we very much appreciate and enjoy your contributions. So thank you again.
And Mavic Chin was there this week too.
Mavic Chin was
Yes.
there as well.
So kudos. Anyway,
Now I'm done.
I think that's going to do it for us this week. Until next week.
Did you hear about that one thing with that guy?
I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith. Did you hear
Hey.
Kate Winslet's going to be the next companion?
I heard Angelina Jolie.
Really?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.
Be seeing you.
We got to install microwave oven, custom kitchen deliveries. We got to move these refrigerators. We got to move these color TVs.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.
Listen here. Now, that ain't working. That's the way you do it. You play the guitar on the MTV.